Chapter 1948. The Great Elder also had special authority in Xintian's sect. When Sect Master Wang was around, he often protected Sect Master Wang. Now, he was protecting Sect Master Li. There were some things that the Great Elder knew more because he was closer to Sect Master Li. Almost everyone is here. Those who didn't come sent their core elders over. The Great Elder answered quickly. He didn't need to worry about him, as he stared at the two experts with similar cultivation who were fighting to the death. I'm just curious. Yang Chen sneered and pretended to be puzzled. You said that there's a sect master who didn't come for such a big thing like annihilating the Tri-River Alliance. The previous sect master Holocaust sect died without a clear reason. The new sect master still has doubts in his heart and doesn't dare to put all his eggs in one basket. The Great Elder didn't even move his eyes. He only said that with his mouth, but his eyes were staring into the distance. The elder who came explained, but as far as I know, Holocaust sect was actually suspicious from the beginning. Yang Chun still used a tone of asking for advice. He humbly asked the Great Elder, although I have never been a sect master, I can barely speak in Chunyang Palace. If the sect master doesn't show up on such an occasion and still suspects his companions, don't expect others to do their best to help if anything happens in the future, right? The hint of Yang Chen's words was too obvious. The Great Elder frowned directly. He turned around and asked, Why? Did you find something wrong? I was just putting myself in their shoes and thinking about it. Yang Chen still looked puzzled. Senior, you said that the sect master of Holocaust sect doesn't trust sect Master Li and the others. What does Holocaust sect mean? The Great Elder already realized the problem at this moment, but he didn't fully understand it. After looking at Yang Chen for a while, he urged, if you really found something, just say it. There is no room for guessing at this moment. All right, this junior discovered that some people are attacking their own people. Yang Chen didn't beat around the bush and answered directly. That's because there are spies everywhere. At times like this, it's only natural for us to be loyal to our own sect. At this point, the Great Elder's gaze suddenly froze. He looked in a certain direction and didn't speak for a long time. After a while, he said, Something's wrong. Something's wrong here. Senior, please forgive this junior for his impudence. At this time, Yang Chen's expression also became serious. He said very seriously, If the Zhao family controls more than just the Three River Alliance, what will happen? Oh no. To be able to become the head elder of the mysterious Heaven sect, whether it was in terms of age, experience, or cultivation, he could be considered a cunning old fox. How could he not understand such a simple truth? He immediately realized the danger involved. Senior, if you know where sect leader Li and the others are, you'd better rush over to protect them immediately. Yang Chen didn't say that he knew where sect leader Li and the others were. Instead, he used this wording. Even if our considerations are wrong, at least there won't be any mistakes. Stop looking, hurry, and protect the sect leader. The Great Elder couldn't care about anything else anymore. He called out and quickly left. Wait! Yang Chen shouted and forcibly stopped the Great Elder's figure in place. What else is there? The Great Elder was clearly impatient. If it wasn't for Yang Chen's reminder, he would have already been impolite to Yang Chen. Take these. Yang Chen reached out and took out a few jade bottles from his merit ring. He handed them to the Great Elder and said, These are 1,000-year pills, one for each person. After hesitating for a moment, he said to the Great Elder, There's also the one I gave you before. If there really is trouble, eat it. We can't care too much right now. Each of you will gain 2,000 years of cultivation. I believe it will last for a while. I'll eat one now. The Great Elder had just been thinking about it in his mind. The more he thought about it, the more he felt that something was wrong. He grabbed the jade bottles from Yang Chen's hand and quickly opened them. He gave one to each of the other 35 brothers. Everyone realized that they were in trouble. No one said anything and directly stuffed the pills into their mouths. You guys stay here. As long as you don't rush into the battle, you will be safe for now. The Great Elder looked at the Xian Immortal experts beside the women and said to Yang Chen, It's all thanks to you this time. I will tell the sect leader about this. We will definitely thank you in the future. With that, the group of Xian Immortal experts cupped their hands towards Yang Chun, then turned and quickly left. While they were flying, they had already started to circulate their qi to refine the medicinal energy and crazily absorb the spirit energy released from the thousand-year pills. Husband, Gao Yu frowned as she listened. Seeing that the great elder and the others had left, she asked Yang Chun, "Will we make it in time?" Gao Yu wasn't the only one who wanted to know the answer. The other women also wanted to know the answer. One had to know that besides Gao Yu and Gong Sun Ling, Yang Qin's other wives and concubines were all from the 5 Big Dao sects. Their sect leaders might all be in danger. "It's fine. We thought of it a little late, but it's not too late," Yang Chun calmly comforted. "The sect leaders will definitely have protection around them. They won't be completely helpless. As long as the great elder and the others rush over, they will be more than half safe. If it's not enough, don't we still have the 36,000-year pills?" 2,000-year pills added up to at least 2,000 years of cultivation. 36 Xian Immortal experts with 2,000 years of cultivation. In addition to the heavenly dipper formation that they had been cultivating all this time, even if they couldn't destroy the other party's scheme, it should be more than enough to protect themselves. Hearing this, the women felt a little more at ease. In the current situation, even if they wanted to intervene, their cultivation wasn't high enough. Secondly, their husband would definitely not let them take the risk. "Don't worry," Yang Chun comforted again. "If even I can think of it, how could those sect leaders not think of it? Maybe they have already made arrangements." Thinking about it, it was reasonable. Even though Yang Chen's words were a little self-deprecating, it was the truth. Which one of those sect leaders wasn't more cunning than a ghost? Small tricks really wouldn't be able to trick them. "Everyone, enter the Dragon Palace. Husband will bring you all closer," Yang Chun said to the women. Just now, the great elder and the others were there. Some things couldn't be done too much. Now that they had all left, Yang Chun naturally wouldn't let go of this opportunity. The women didn't have any objections and quickly entered the Dragon Palace. Others might not know how powerful their husband was, but how could they not know? He could even enter and exit the core of the trial grounds. Tri-River Alliance was nothing to him. Moreover, the women also wanted to see what was happening at their sect leader's side. Chapter 1949. The reason why he wanted to save Sect Master Li and the others. Yang Chen also had his own considerations. Firstly, the current enemy was the Zhao family, and dealing with the Zhao family required the cooperation of all parties. Secondly, it was not easy for the Xintian sect to have a sect master who trusted him very much. Yang Chun would not let this silent advantage be lost. Yang Chun now had no sea-pouring jasper cup in his hand. It was not particularly easy to approach Sect Master Li and the others silently like Li Cheng. However, Yang Chun had touched the core of the trial ground alone by relying on the divine awareness thread, and no Xian immortal level monster found him. Now that the Lingxiao King Palace was built in the Sea of Consciousness, this ability had been greatly enhanced, and it should be feasible to touch it carefully. Yang Chun had just sneaked into the ground with the women and walked out in that direction, and something really happened to Sect Master Li. The great elder of the Holocaust sect, while everyone was concerned about the battle situation, quietly walked to the edge of the crowd. Seeing that everyone's mind was not here, he suddenly launched the long-planned arrangement. Suddenly, tens of Xian Immortal experts appeared in the small concealment formation that the sect leaders were hiding in. They quickly surrounded the sect leaders. As soon as these masters appeared, they immediately launched a fierce attack on the sect masters inside. Anyway, no matter who was present, they were all big shots who could shake the spiritual world with a stomp of their feet. It was worth killing any one of them. The sudden attack did not make the sect masters flustered. In fact, after being the sect masters of supreme sects in the spiritual realm for so many years, which of them did not have any trump cards? Even though they were cooperating, every single one of them was still cautious and guarded against such an ambush. To them, such an ambush was not very effective. The sect masters responded in different ways. Some of them had a powerful protective magic weapon appear on their bodies in an instant. Some took out a formation flag, and turned it into a solid protective formation, and some had 5 or 6 Xian Immortal Masters appear to protect themselves in the center. In short, everyone had a way to deal with it. The attack of the Holocaust sect's Great Elder was directly stopped. Boom, boom, boom. The violent explosions instantly shattered the small concealment formation into pieces. The combined attack of dozens of profound immortal experts was so powerful that it was comparable to the combined attack of 36 Heavenly Dipper experts of the Profound Heaven sect. In just a moment, be it the defensive treasures or the defensive formations that the sect masters had taken out, they were all shattered by that one strike. On the other hand, a few Xian immortal experts were able to block the attacks together. After all, the combined attacks of dozens of Xian immortal experts were distributed among the 20 over sect leaders, so each of them could only withstand the attacks of 2 to 3 experts. The Xian immortal experts who were protecting them were more than enough to withstand this level of attack. The first attack was blocked relatively easily. With this buffer time, a few Xian immortal experts appeared beside each sect leader. There were about 100 of them in total, protecting the 20 sect leaders in the middle. I knew there was something wrong with your Holocaust sect. Sect Masterly shouted angrily at the Holocaust sect's Great Elder. With a cold face, he said to the Holocaust sect's Great Elder who had already retreated far away, "Since you can't wait to jump out, then let's settle it all together today." Judging from the number of Xian immortal experts, there were more than 100 around the sect leaders, but there were only more than 60 on the Holocaust sect's Great Elder's side. Obviously, they were the weaker side. However, this Great Elder looked relaxed and didn't feel that he was at a disadvantage at all. It was as if the attack, just now, was just to open the formation. Back then, the Holocaust sect master died mysteriously, and even Yang Chen had doubts. It was just that the scale of Wanbao Tower was small, and it was not enough to spread his power to the demon sect's territory during the demon tribulation, so he didn't find any evidence of the Holocaust sect. Not to mention the small Qinyang Palace. Even super sects like Profound Heaven sect didn't find any clues, even though they suspected that there was something wrong with the Holocaust sect's new sect master after so many years. Therefore, the joint attack this time still included the Holocaust sect. However, this didn't mean that everyone trusted the Holocaust sect. In fact, those sect leaders wouldn't completely trust any other sect other than their own sect. Even the Profound Heaven sect was like this. One should know that the sect leaders in the mortal world had a hatred of extermination with the Profound Heaven sect. Who knew if the Profound Heaven sect would take the lead this time for revenge? Every sect leader held back, and, at this time, it showed that their action was extremely correct. If it wasn't so, how could the sudden attack of these Holocaust sect experts be in vain? However, those with good eyesight and wide knowledge had already discovered that more than half of the experts who just appeared were unfamiliar. They weren't from the Holocaust sect at all. If everyone's guess was right, these unfamiliar Xian immortal experts should be from the Zhao clan. All parties were planning on how to launch a surprise attack on the Tri-River Alliance, while the Zhao clan was planning on how to take advantage of this opportunity to deplete the power of the major sect. Both parties were planning, and it depended on whose plan was more brilliant. Seeing that the people from the Holocaust sect were about to fall into a disadvantage, the Great Elder of the Holocaust sect revealed a smile on his face. A few experts guarded the sect leaders cautiously in the center as they stared at the scene, afraid that there would be any sudden situation. Once the concealment formation was broken, the position of the sect leaders couldn't be hidden anymore. Immediately, someone noticed the situation over here. For the time being, everyone wasn't nervous. If it was just based on this arrangement, it wasn't enough to make the sect leaders worry. The closest experts from the Tri-River Alliance were still a few hundred miles away. It was the group from the Tong Tian Pavilion. They were fighting with the major sect who had the advantage in numbers, and there were casualties on both sides. The plan was always good, but it was inevitable that there would be some changes. Just when the sect leaders thought that they were temporarily safe, an expert from the Tong Tian Pavilion suddenly opened one of the cave abode treasures on his body. Hundreds of Xian immortal experts appeared in an instant. A small portion of them directly surrounded the opponents of each sect, while the majority of them flew towards the sect leaders. In the eyes of these Xian Immortal experts, the distance of a few hundred miles was just a matter of a few breaths. No matter how many trump cards the sect leaders had, most of the experts were sent out to participate in the battle to annihilate the Tri-River Alliance. On average, there were only a few experts by their side. In an instant, the Holocaust sect had the absolute advantage in numbers, and the offensive and defensive situation was immediately reversed. Sect leader, we're here. The experts who stayed to protect the sect leaders had already retreated to defend. Seeing that both sides were about to start fighting, Sect Leader Li suddenly heard a familiar voice. Lifting his head, Sect Leader Li saw dozens of familiar figures. Chapter 1950. Xintian Sect's Great Elder and the others came at the right time. The 36 Xian Immortal experts with almost the same cultivation level could form the Heavenly Dipper formation, which could greatly guarantee the safety of the sect masters. Others didn't know the trump cards of the 36 Heavenly Dipper experts, but Sect Master Li was with them almost every day in the later stages. How could he not know their state? The cultivation of the Great Elder and the others was obviously higher than before they set off. What was going on? Millennium Pill. The Great Elder saw Sect Master Li's doubts. After protecting Sect Master Li and the other Sect Masters in the Heavenly Dipper formation, he whispered to Sect Master Li and explained the changes in their bodies. In fact, from a moment they took the pill until now, it had only been a moment. The medicinal effect of the Millennium Pill had not been fully exerted, but the obvious effect had already appeared. At least Sect Master Li could clearly see the changes in the Great Elder and the others. Yang Chun found it. Sect Master Li had already guessed in his heart, but he didn't say anything. He didn't want so many people present to know about his relationship with Yang Chun. Even if he spoke softly with the cultivation level of these people, they could still hear him. Since Yang Chun let the Great Elder and the others take the Millennium Pill, Sect Master Li immediately realized the seriousness of the situation. In terms of numbers, they were now at a disadvantage. With such a large group of experts rushing over, even if the battle was in a stalemate, these Heaven Immortal level sect masters would definitely be implicated. The Heavenly Dipper formation had just protected everyone in the center for a few breaths when a large number of experts rushed over. Fortunately, the formation itself was strong enough. Coupled with the people who were constantly increasing their cultivation level, they were able to block this group of experts outside the circle. But the situation was not optimistic. Although the Great Elder and the others had blocked several times more powerful enemies, the circle of the Heavenly Dipper formation was being compressed. Everyone had to bear the pressure of several enemies. Even with the help of the formation, it was very difficult to defend. What was even more worrying was that the aftermath of the battle between the Xian Immortal experts had begun to affect the center of the formation. The formation was still very stable, so the aftermath was not very big. Relying on everyone's Heaven Immortal level cultivation, they could still guard against it. But if the pressure increased, the consequences would be hard to imagine. It wasn't that the sect masters didn't have cave abodes or magic treasures that they could hide in, but in this kind of situation where they needed to supervise and command the front line, if they as the sect masters hid in there, it would be an unpredictable blow to the morale of the entire battlefield. Moreover, even if it wasn't for these reasons, just the sect master's own face was enough to make them unable to put down their pride and use this method to escape. The Big Dipper array was already everyone's last line of defense. Those Xian Immortal experts that appeared earlier were also suppressed by the absolute number of experts, and there were even casualties. On the other hand, the Great Elder and the others relied on the Heavenly Dipper array formation and their increasing cultivation to solidly injure dozens of opponents, and the situation also slowed down. In the crowd of the Holocaust sect, the Holocaust sect master had already appeared beside the Great Elder. He, who had never appeared before, finally appeared at this critical juncture. Not only did the sect master appear, but there were also thousands of Xian Immortal-level demonic beasts. All of them were captured by the Holocaust sect during the outbreak of the demonic beast tide. But this wasn't strange. Since the Holocaust sect was backed by the Zhao family, and the Zhao family had been living in the trial ground for tens of thousands of years, it was very normal for them to be able to capture so many Xian immortal-level demonic beasts. Yang Chun couldn't help but let out a cry of surprise. Back then, when Yang Chun and Li Cheng were exploring the core of the trial ground, it was a little strange. Over the years, so many Xian immortal-level demonic beasts had come out from the exit of the demonic beast space. Apart from those that died when they collided with the formation and those that had their cultivation reduced by the formation, there should still be a large number of Xian immortal-level demonic beasts. Now, he finally knew where these demonic beasts had gone to. It turned out that they had been secretly captured by the Zhao family. But now that these Xian immortal-level demonic beasts had appeared here, it wasn't something to be happy about. As soon as these demonic beasts appeared and noticed the presence of cultivators, they immediately pounced on them. What was strange was that these demonic beasts, which were supposed to be hostile to any cultivator, were now only targeting the experts of the various sect. Whether it was the disciples of the Holocaust sect or the Three River Alliance, they didn't care at all. It was unknown what method the Zhao family used to make these demonic beasts only target those who didn't have the Zhao family's secret technique. In terms of understanding of demonic beasts, all the sect combined probably couldn't compare to the Zhao family. The appearance of the demonic beasts shocked the sect masters. Now there were thousands of Xian immortal-level demonic beasts, and they were enemies that didn't fear death and only knew how to fight. Fortunately, the Zhao family's limit was to let these demonic beasts distinguish between friend and foe, but they still couldn't clearly command the demonic beasts to attack a specific target. Among the thousands of demonic beasts, only about 1,000 charged towards the sect masters. The rest rushed towards the larger battlefield of the Three River Alliance where there were more cultivators. Not only were the sect masters in grave danger, even the Three River Alliance's battlefield was in grave danger. With these thousands of Xian immortal-level demonic beasts that could distinguish between friend and foe, it was equivalent to the Three River Alliance gaining thousands of new soldiers. The army that participated in the extermination was in danger, especially those heaven immortal disciples. They could only hope that they could run faster. With the addition of thousands of Xian immortal-level demonic beasts, no matter how powerful the Heaven Dipper formation was, even if the Great Elder and the rest had just increased their cultivation by quite a bit, they still had to shrink the battle circle in the face of this tide of attacks. In addition to the Xian immortal experts from the various sect who hid in the formation to help, so many people were compressed into a less than a mile circle. Not only did the Great Elder and the rest have to endure the combined attacks from more than 100 Holocaust sect experts, they also had to endure the continuous waves of frenzied counterattacks from the demonic beasts. Half of the Tiangang experts were already injured, and they were spitting out fresh blood. Eat another 1,000-year pill. Great Elder already understood that they wouldn't be able to hold on for too long, so he had to take the risk. After a loud shout, he took the lead and swallowed the second millennium pill. At the same time, he also swallowed Yang Chen's 6th Revolution Lingji Jade pill. Everyone, don't hide anymore. Show your trump cards. Sect Master Li's face was ashen. Seeing this scene, he could no longer remain silent and shouted. The enemy had already shown their trump cards one after another, so there shouldn't be any other arrangements. It was time for the various sect masters to show their trump cards. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Elite disciples of their respective sect began to appear beside the sect masters. The number of people had exceeded 1,000. Chapter 1951. Behind every super sect was not just a super sect. There were also many small sects attached to the sect, and there were many of them. Most of the time, these small sects existed independently. Most of the time, outsiders didn't even know if this sect was attached to a super sect. For example, in the eyes of Sect Master Li, the current Chunyang Palace was the best hidden Black Heaven sect-affiliated sect. In this battle to annihilate the Tri-River Alliance, it seemed that every sect had used all their strength. Other than the experts in the sect, almost all the others had come to the Tri-River Alliance's battlefield. However, this was far from the full strength of the super sect because there were many affiliated sects behind them. These Xian immortal experts that suddenly appeared were the experts of the various subsidiary sects that usually didn't show themselves. They didn't appear at the beginning because they were waiting for the moment when the Zhao family revealed their true intentions. With the addition of more than 1,000 mystic immortal experts, the situation immediately changed. With so many people to disperse the pressure and the enemies, the Big Dipper formation immediately became very stable. Not only that, with these experts fighting for time and buffer, the Great Elder and the others finally had the right time to refine the medicinal effect. First was the injuries on their bodies. Yang Chun gave them the Merit Ganoderma Jade pill at the beginning, which had excellent healing effects. In just a few breaths, the injuries on the Great Elder and the others recovered rapidly. Then, the heaven-defying effect of the Millennium Pill came into play. Because they took 2 Millennium Pills in a row, the cultivation of the 36 Big Dipper experts directly jumped at least 4 small realms. In other words, the Great Elder and the others who were originally just Grade 4 Mystic Immortals suddenly became Grade 7 Mystic Immortals. At the beginning, because they were suppressed by the strong enemies, even the Great Elder and the others had to seize the time to protect themselves, so they didn't have enough time to absorb the medicinal effect. Now, their cultivation increased because the time was too short, so the medicinal effect wasn't fully displayed. However, even then, 36 7-stage mysterious immortal realm experts were sufficient to sweep through the scene, especially when they cooperated well with each other and utilized the Heavenly Dipper formation. With just one move, at least a dozen demonic beasts and 4 to 5 Holocaust sect experts were drawn into the formation. After 7 to 8 breaths, these demonic beasts and experts were minced into pieces by the formation. However, the Big Dipper formation did not stop. It immediately brought the sect masters to charge towards another group of aggressive demonic beasts. In the blink of an eye, another dozen or so demon beasts were slaughtered. Their efficiency was so high that it was pleasing to the eye. Of course, it was the major sect side that found this pleasing to the eye. The sect leaders were watching this delightful scene up close, and they were still giving pointers in an elegant manner. They were incomparably comfortable, and there was no trace of their previous embarrassment. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. The Zhao clan might have thought that the Three River Alliance was the cicada, the major sect was the mantis, and the Holocaust sect, and these demonic beasts were the oriole. However, they never expected that there would be a kid with a slingshot behind the oriole. All of a sudden, the major sects became the ones who benefited in the end. The sudden change in the situation left everyone dumbfounded. Yang Chen's wives, concubines, apprentices, and friends were equally stunned. Hidden in the ground, everyone watched the mixed use of various military tactics that were rarely seen on the battlefield of the human world. It could really be said that it was an eye-opener. These people from major sect are too cunning. Ho Yun, the straightforward young man, couldn't help but mutter. Then, he was immediately glared at by a few beautiful eyes. Only then did he realize that Yang Chen's wives and concubines were all from the major sect. He couldn't help but shrink his neck and didn't dare to speak again. The women were too lazy to argue with a boorish man. After staring coldly at Ho Yun, they all turned their heads and continued to observe the battle above with divine sense. Originally, Fatty Jing, Shi Kuei, and Xie Sha were also ready to echo Ho Yun. After being silently attacked by the women, no one dared to say anything. After covering their mouths and snickering at Ho Yun, they once again focused their attention on the battle above. It was said to be a close observation. In fact, Yang Chun and the others were at least 200 miles away from the sect masters. It was not that they didn't want to get closer, but because this was already the limit that Yang Chun could guarantee that everyone would not be discovered and attacked. Moving forward, even if they were not discovered by those masters, they would be affected by the ubiquitous attacks. There were thousands of Xian immortal masters. Even if 1/10 of the masters occasionally attacked the ground, it was not something that Yang Chun could resist by relying on the Dragon Palace. What's more, if everyone wanted to explore the situation over there, they had to release their divine sense. They would definitely be discovered. It seems that the overall situation is settled. Gao Yu looked at the situation above, let out a sigh of relief, and said this sentence. Except for Gao Yu and Gong Sunling, the other women were all from the big sect. When the Great Elder and the others rushed to the site and took the attack, their hearts were only slightly relieved. When the Holocaust sect jumped out again, the hearts of the women were pulled again. Then seeing that the sect masters were prepared, they were relieved. Several times in a row, even if the women did not participate in the battle, they were tired. Now it seemed that they could relax a little, so Gao Yu said that sentence. However, as soon as her voice fell, Shi Wushuang next to her couldn't help but smile bitterly. Big sister, I'm afraid not. Among the women, Shi Wushuang has always been resourceful. Listening to Shi Wushuang, all the women were shocked. Tao Junkie was even more shocked and asked, What? What other dangers are there? Hubby just said that there are 2 sect masters did not come. Shi Wushuang still smiled bitterly and replied helplessly, Holocaust sect jumped out now. Don't forget, there is still Guangyuan Cave that has not done anything yet. What should we do? Tao Junkie instantly became anxious. In this situation, even the strongest heaven immortals, Fatty Jing and Zhou Xianying, would not be able to intervene in this situation where Xian immortals were everywhere, let alone the fact that almost all of them were human immortals. To put it bluntly, they could only watch obediently. That was all they could do. Don't worry too much. Yang Chen, the backbone, spoke at the right time. Even we can see through it. How could the sect masters, who are so smart, not think of it? Just wait and see. The women thought about it and felt that it made sense. Yang Chen said that they were smart, but in fact, all the women knew that they should be described as cunning. It was impossible that they could not think of such an obvious thing. Just wait and see. Chapter 1952. Due to the incident with the Holocaust sect, even the sect masters were wary of Guangyuan Cave's Great Elder. Just like what Yangchen had said, the sect master did not show up for such a huge incident. Could it be that he was hiding something? However, Guangyuan Cave was the 3rd most powerful sect among the demon race. There were countless demon race experts under them, and they could not be treated lightly. Even if everyone had doubts in their hearts, they couldn't just say it out loud like that. The reason was that the experts of Guangyuan Cave were also fighting on the battlefield of the Tri-River Alliance. Moreover, the demonic beasts did not let them off. The demonic beasts released by the Holocaust sect could differentiate between friend and foe and would only attack the experts of each sect. Now, this had become an important symbol to differentiate between friend and foe. Since the people of Guangyuan Cave did not show any relationship with the Zhao family, they could not openly suppress or even attack Guangyuan Cave. Otherwise, they would disappoint their allies. However, this did not mean that everyone would trust Guangyuan Cave unconditionally. At least from the positions of the sect masters, it could be seen that the Great Elder of Guangyuan Cave had been pushed to the edge. Moreover, there were at least 4 Heaven Star Realm experts in Mysterious Heaven Sect's Big Dipper formation watching the Great Elder of Guangyuan Cave's every move. One of them was the Mysterious Heaven Sect's Great Elder, who was in charge of the formation. It was necessary to be on guard, especially at such a crucial moment. They could not allow the situation to be reversed because of a small mistake. In reality, everyone was not only on guard against the Great Elder of Guangyuan Cave. They did not know if they should trust others and were on guard against each other. The fact that the demonic beasts did not attack the experts of a Zhao family had become a symbol. Therefore, after the most critical moment, everyone started to observe carefully to see which experts were in cahoots with the demonic beasts and which side was the enemy. It was easy to tell if they were friend or foe. Boom, 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 boom. Violent movements could be heard from the Big Dipper formation. A large number of experts had already rushed out to kill the demonic beasts. Now, other than the 2 guards of each sect master, there was no one else in the formation. At this moment, hundreds of figures of the demon race suddenly appeared. The moment these figures appeared, they started to attack the surrounding cultivators. The Big Dipper formation was very strong and stable because it was set up by 36 mystic Immortal Grade 7 experts. However, that was only when they were attacked from the outside. The formation was not omnipotent. If it was sturdy on the outside, It meant that it was not strong enough to protect the inside. With the sudden attack of hundreds of experts, the previously incomparably sturdy Heavenly Dipper formation immediately became weak. Perhaps it was because the performance of the Tiangang experts was too eye-catching. In just a short while, they had already eliminated close to 100 ferocious demonic beasts and over 20 experts from the Holocaust sect. Such a threat was too great for the enemy. If there was a chance, they would be the first targets to be eliminated. No expert would be able to withstand a sneak attack from the back. All of a sudden, the formation disintegrated from the inside out. The 36 Heavenly Dipper realm experts, including the Great Elder, were sent flying in all directions while vomiting blood. Fortunately, his cultivation had soared, and the medicinal effect of the Ganoderma Jade Dew Pill was still present in his body, so he did not lose his life. But even so, the Heavenly Dipper formation had completely lost its combat power. This unforeseen event happened in the time it takes for a spark to fly off a flint. It had already happened before anyone could react, and they didn't even have the time to stop it. Furthermore, the other sect's defenses were mainly focused on the vast origin cave. They had neglected the other sections. All the sect leaders stared at the person who attacked in shock. Their faces were filled with unconcealable shock. While everyone was guarding against the vast origin cave, no one would have thought that the person who attacked was the sect leader of the Thousand Demon sect. Actually, if the Thousand Demon sect did not attack, they would have been exposed. On the other side, on the battlefield of the Three River Alliance, the demonic beasts had stopped attacking the Thousand Demon sect experts. As long as anyone paid a little attention, they would have noticed the problem. The Thousand Demon sect was also on the same side as the Zhao clan. The vast origin cave, which was originally the biggest suspect, was not the enemy. All the disciples were doing their best to defend against the Zhao clan experts and demonic beasts. Instead, the Thousand Demon sect, which everyone was at ease with, had become the enemy. Things in this world were changing too quickly, and people did not know what to do. Good move. Sect leader Li of the Mystic Heaven sect was trembling in anger. He had already made the greatest preparations, but he did not expect this move. This drastic measure had even destroyed the Heavenly Dipper formation, which the sect leaders relied on the most. Hundreds of mystic immortal experts had completely surrounded the sect leaders. If the sect leaders did not have any countermeasures, then the battle to annihilate the Three River Alliance would become a complete joke. Not only did the sect leaders fail to annihilate the Three River Alliance, but they also lost their sect leaders and a group of mystic immortal experts. This was definitely a huge loss. Not only that, if they failed this battle, it meant that the sect leaders would no longer have enough experts to fight against the Zhao clan. The super sect leaders, who were originally extremely famous, would be reduced to an ordinary first-rate sect, on the same level as the current Xunyang Palace. Facing a colossus like the Zhao clan, they would definitely be able to take whatever they wanted without any resistance. Oh no! Husband, quickly think of a way to save the sect leader. Tao Junkie saw this scene and immediately panicked. She pulled Yang Chun and asked him to think of a way. Although Shi Shan, Sun Qingxue, and Shi Wushuang did not speak, they all looked at Yang Chun worriedly, waiting for him to come up with an idea. That's right, Lin Jingyuan. Shi Wushuang suddenly thought of Lin Jingyuan, who had been playing in the Dragon Palace. Lin Jingyuan's strength had surpassed the intermediate golden immortal stage. As long as he took action, he would definitely be able to help these sect leaders out of the crisis. Lin Jingyuan? How? Do you want Lin Jingyuan to kill them all? Hearing Shi Wushuang mention Lin Jingyuan, Yang Chun could not help but smile bitterly. At this juncture, who can guarantee that they will not be on guard when they use their divine sense to investigate? Once Lin Jingyuan was released, it was estimated that except for Yang Chen's family, everyone else would become Lin Jingyuan's target, including the sect leaders of the major sect. Maybe they would die a little faster than they were now. The women were also in a hurry to seek medical help, but they did not think of this key point for a while. Don't worry, sect leader Li and the others will be fine. However, looking at the anxious expressions of his wives and concubines, Yang Chun still couldn't help but remind them as a way to comfort them. "What?" Sun Qingxue asked curiously. "They have already used all their strength. The masters in the sect are almost used up. Who will save them at this time?" Sun Qingxue's words were also the curiosity of the other women. They all looked at Yang Chun and waited for an answer. "Murong and the others haven't come out yet. Don't worry." Yang Chun finally revealed the mystery. Chapter 1953. It cannot be said that everyone in the spiritual world knew about it, but at least the core high-level members of the major sects must know about it. The Five Elements sect Master Chui's newly accepted pro-disciples, 5 quintuplets female disciples, Yang Chen's 5 concubines. The Murong sisters now control the dragon puppet, and it was a dragon puppet in the middle golden immortal stage. This time, when Yang Chen's disciple was kidnapped, the culprit knew that the Murong sisters were in closed-door cultivation and wouldn't come out because of such a small matter. That was why they acted so unscrupulously. Of course, there was no lack of spies from the Zhao family to help them pass on the news. If the kidnapping of Yang Chen's disciple and extortion of Yang Chen's pill formula wasn't worth the Murong sisters bringing the dragon puppet out of closed-door cultivation, then the big matter in front of them, the annihilation of the Three River Alliance and the safety of the sect leaders, was definitely the top priority. Only a fool would believe that the Murong sisters wouldn't use the dragon puppet just because they were in closed-door cultivation. Sure enough, as soon as Yang Chen's voice fell, a clear dragon roar spread across the entire Three River Alliance's territory. A black shadow as thin as a strand of hair flew out from sect leader Chui's hair. In an instant, it turned into a huge creature that was thousands of meters long and tens of meters thick. With another dragon roar, all the Xian immortal experts and demonic beasts around sect leader Chui were blown high up into the air and landed far away. Only a few experts below the Xian immortal realm were left standing. The various sect leaders happened to be at this cultivation level. It must be said that this move of the dragon puppet was very ingenious, directly relieving the sect leaders of their crisis. In front of everyone's horrified eyes, the gigantic dragon puppet spun in a circle and protected the sect masters within it. Then, the dragon head and claws began to attack the surrounding demonic beasts without restraint. The moment the dragon puppet appeared, the situation on the battlefield was instantly reversed. When those crazy Xian immortal demonic beasts faced the dragon puppet that was releasing its berserk aura, each of them shivered like frightened quails. Not to mention attacking, it was already crazy enough that they didn't run away. This kind of absolute suppression in terms of strength and natural suppression in terms of race was simply the natural nemesis of the demonic beasts. The madness of the demonic beasts was completely suppressed. When there were only a few experts from the Holocaust sect and the Thousand Goblins sect left, the situation was a different matter. Knowing that the dragon puppets were their helpers, the experts of the sect were instantly energized as if they had received divine help. Their morale soared as they charged toward the enemies. The experts from the Holocaust sect and the Thousand Demons sect looked as if they had lost their parents. How could they fight against the golden, immortal level dragon puppet? Even if he could get rid of these masters from various sects, how would he deal with them after the dragon puppet dealt with the demonic beasts? The morale of one side was high, while the morale of the other side was low. It was obvious who was superior. If they could maintain this situation, the major sect would definitely win this time. Three River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and Thousand Demon sect were destined to be annihilated. The sect masters had already expected such an outcome as soon as the dragon puppet appeared. Each and every one of them was grinning from ear to ear. Of course, what made them the happiest was that the sect master of the Thousand Demons sect, who was also a heaven immortal, was also surrounded by the dragon puppet's protective circle. This was obviously done on purpose by the Murong sisters. A heaven immortal level sect master of the Thousand Demons sect was facing 20 sect masters of other major sects. No matter how they looked at it, it was like a little lamb that had fallen into a pack of wolves. A few of the sect masters had already started rolling up their sleeves, ready to kill the sect master of the Thousand Demons sect. He had just put everyone in such a difficult situation and lied to them for so long. How could so many sect masters let go of the sect master of the Thousand Demon sect so easily? Using a magic treasure to kill him would be letting him off too easily. No matter what, he had to beat him up to vent the hatred in his heart. With one taking the lead, the others immediately followed. They were all sect masters of super sections. Normally, they were all high and mighty figures. If they wanted to get rid of someone, they only needed to say something, and there would be countless people fighting to get rid of them. How could they have the chance to do it themselves? What's more, this time they were going to fight barehanded. Even the two female sect masters of the Green Jade Immortal Island and the Blue Cloud sect were also gritting their teeth. Not only were they ready to punch, but they also deliberately polished their fingernails into a few sharp angles. With a beautiful and ferocious look on their faces, they slowly stepped forward, waiting to vent their anger. Unfortunately, after all, the sect masters still had their own identities. They couldn't do the kind of evil look that shook their heads and sneered while stepping forward. Otherwise, this scene would definitely be an unprecedented classic picture in the spiritual realm. This is good, it's foolproof. Ho Yin, this guy, didn't learn from his mistakes. Seeing the appearance of the dragon puppet, he was shocked for a while, but he immediately became excited and said happily. Fortunately, this time Ho Yun said good words, and it didn't cause the women to roll their eyes. However, his words did not make everyone agree. At least Yang Chun, Gao Yu, Shi Wushuang, and Zhou Xianying did not show a relaxed expression. I'm afraid it's not necessarily true. Shi Wushuang's delicate voice sounded with a little reluctance, and there was a bitter smile mixed with helplessness. She turned to look at the women and said, "Even we know that Sister Morong has a golden immortal level dragon puppet. How could the Three River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and Thousand Demon sect not know? How could the people of the Zhao family not know?" The women listened and were stunned again. Yes, such a simple truth. Even they knew that Murong's sisters had a dragon puppet. The sect masters of the various parties must also know, and similarly, the Zhao family also knew. But since they knew that there was a golden, immortal level dragon puppet, they still launched it, and even exposed the Holocaust sect and Thousand Demon sect. What was the purpose? Of course, the Three River Alliance was found to have definite evidence, and the reason was that they had to deal with it. But if they knew that they would definitely lose and still stubbornly resisted, then they were not ordinary idiots. Knowing that they couldn't win, the Three River Alliance could immediately retreat back to the Zhao family. Even if the major sect had great abilities, it was impossible for them to go to the core of the trial ground to find the Zhao family. Why would they pay such a big price and create such a big scene to fight with a major sect? What was certain was that the Three River Alliance was not a fool, the Holocaust sect was not a fool, the Thousand Demon sect was not a fool, and the Zhao family was not a fool. Since these guys were not fools, the only explanation for fighting, even though they knew that there was a golden, immortal level dragon puppet, was that they might have a countermeasure. Listening to Shi Wushuang's words, everyone was completely speechless. No one knew how to describe the situation in front of them. Just how much effort did they put into mobilizing the forces of all parties? No wonder the sect master's cultivation was not the highest, but their brains must be the best. The reason must be this. Chapter 1954. As if to confirm Shi Wushuang's words, the Myriad Demon Sect's sect leader, who was supposed to be extremely anxious, suddenly let out a sigh of relief. His face also revealed a smile, as if everything was under control. Looking at the overbearing sect masters, he even revealed a hint of mockery. The sect leader of Wuji Demon School, who was charging at the front, immediately sensed that something was wrong. He stopped in his tracks and raised his hand to stop the other sect leaders behind him. If you don't have any more powerful trump cards, then you will lose for sure this time. The Myriad Demon Sect's sect leader smiled calmly and said, "A mere dragon puppet cannot be the key to victory or defeat." Gotcha. No one knew where the sound came from. Following the sound, a huge palace suddenly appeared out of nowhere. It was dazzling in gold and jade, and it also carried an indescribable pressure. Following the appearance of the palace, the dragon puppet began to change uncontrollably. First of all, the dragon puppet that was thousands of feet long began to shrink rapidly, becoming only a few feet long. No matter how hard the Murong sisters, who were secretly controlling it, tried, they could not make the dragon puppet grow any larger. Although the dragon puppet size did not affect its combat power much, it was relatively less intimidating. In particular, after the aura released by the dragon puppet was inexplicably absorbed into the palace complex. Other than the monstrous beasts that were facing the dragon puppet face to face, the monstrous beasts in the distance had already returned to normal and were no longer suppressed by the dragon puppet. The situation returned to the Zhao family's side in an instant. The Murong sisters were forced to show themselves and tried their best to control the dragon puppet, trying to make the dragon puppet unleash its power again. However, for some reason, the dragon puppet could not even rush out of the palace. It wasn't just the dragon puppet. Even the various sect masters felt the suppression from the palace complex. It was as if the palace had an innate ability to restrict them, firmly binding them to the huge square in front of them. No matter what they did, they could not leave. This is called the dragon trapping formation. It's the safest way to deal with the dragon race. Not far away, the sect leader of the Thousand Demon sect, who was completely unaffected, looked proudly at the sect leaders of the major sects who were struggling on the square. He looked at everyone with a victorious expression and said with a happy smile, "Even the dragon race, who is at the intermediate stage of the golden immortal stage, can be trapped. Don't even think about breaking free. Just slowly enjoy the wonderful scene of your elites being slaughtered." As he spoke, the sect leader of the Thousand Demon sect waved his hand once more. Under everyone's shocked gazes, another few thousand Xian immortal realm demonic beasts appeared and joined the battle outside. This was the Zhao clan's last resort. 2 batches of 10,000 Xian immortal demonic beasts were more than enough to control the situation. Let them retreat. Tell them to retreat. Sect Master Li was so anxious that his eyes almost turned red. He was the one who initiated the attack on the Three River Alliance. If they failed, everything would be blamed on Sect Master Li. The current situation was too dangerous. Let alone the mysterious Heaven sect. Even a super sect might be wiped out in one fell swoop. All parties couldn't afford such a loss. Now, they couldn't care less about destroying the Three River Alliance. They only hoped to preserve the elites of all parties. At least they could preserve some of the seeds to deal with the Zhao clan in the future. However, no matter what they did, so many people's divine sense couldn't penetrate the so-called dragon trapping formation. The news of retreat couldn't be sent out, so the experts outside could only fight to the death. The worst outcome was almost presented in front of everyone. It's too late to think of retreating now. The smile on the face of the sect leader of the Thousand Demon sect became more and more brilliant. From now on, the spiritual realm will no longer be under your control. My Zhao clan will rule the world. That's not necessarily true. A calm voice came from behind the sect leader of the Thousand Demon sect. Then, a long figure went straight in a certain direction among the palaces. When the palaces appeared, Yang Chun, who was watching from afar, couldn't help but widen his eyes and almost drool. There were 2 others who drooled like Yang Chun. One was Long Xian, who carried Yang Chen's merit monument, and the other was Yang Chen's monster pet, Xiao Tian. This group of palaces was clearly a complete dragon palace. The aura released from it clearly told Yang Chun that this was a dragon palace that Yang Chun didn't have yet, a wood attribute dragon palace. The dragon puppet was of the earth attribute. So in order to completely restrain the dragon puppet, according to the 5 elements, this dragon palace was of the wood attribute. A powerful formation had already been set up in the square of the dragon palace. Seeing how the dragon puppet was suppressed, it was obvious that this was a formation specifically for the dragon clan. Since the other party could take out a dragon palace, it was obvious that they had a deep understanding of the dragon clan. It was not surprising that there was a formation specifically for the Dragon Clan. What made Yang Chun drool the most was that this Dragon Palace was not presided over by the Dragon Clan. It was temporarily controlled by the sect leader of the Thousand Demon sect. What was this? It was simply throwing a hot and fragrant meat bun directly in front of a group of vicious dogs. For Yang Chun and Xiao Tian, if this kind of fat sent to their door was not directly swallowed into their stomach, they would definitely be struck by lightning. With such a good thing in front of him, how could Yang Chun care about standing by and watching? He put away the Dragon Palace directly and rushed to the location of the Dragon Palace. Even if he would be attacked and exposed on the way, he didn't care much. Fortunately, there were Xian Immortal level masters fighting above. Even the monsters didn't care about a human Immortal level little ant. No matter how he ran, he was courting death in this area anyway. No one would see that the dragon shadow on Yang Chen's body was tumbling and the surface of his body was almost emitting golden light. In just a few dozen breaths, he didn't know how many attacks he had received along the way and finally arrived at the Dragon Palace. Just as the sect leader of the 1,000 Demon Sect said that sentence, Yang Chun didn't have time to reply. After saying that, Yang Chun couldn't help but gasp for breath. Xiao Tian went straight to the control center of the Dragon Palace with the Dragon Pagoda, the hexagonal pagoda, courting death. Seeing that it was Yang Chun, the sect leader of the 1,000 Demon Sect, was relieved and couldn't help but be angry. A mere human immortal alchemist dared to clamor in front of him. It seemed that he had been an alchemist for a long time and had been praised so many times that he had forgotten what kind of trash he was. It was time to give him an unforgettable lesson. Wait, Yang Chun was still gasping for breath, but he reached out in time to stop the sect leader. The sect leader of the 1,000 Demon Sect grinned and stopped. He looked at Yang Chun and said, "Before you die, I will give you a chance to speak. Tell me your last words." "My last words are..." Yang Chun finally gasped for breath and pointed to the sect leader of the 1,000 Demon Sect and said, "Your opponent is not me, it's them." Chapter 1955. The sect leader of the 10,000 Demon Sect turned his head and saw Fatty Jing, who had a malicious smile on his face and was arrogantly cracking his knuckles. Beside Fatty Jing was Ho Yun, the Old Tree Demon, Lan Ning, Shi Kuei, and Xie Sha. There were also Mu Bai and Yi Yu, the two guys with bad intentions. They were staring at him and making the kind of sinister laughter that the sect masters were embarrassed to make. They were like bullies who wanted to rob women. Their eyes were shining as they walked forward. If it was just Ho Yun, Old Tree Demon, and Yang Chen's disciples, the Sky Immortal Realm Sect Master would not hesitate. However, Fatty Jing was already at the peak of the Heavenly Immortal stage. To put it bluntly, he alone could easily kill the 1,000 Demon Sect leader. But this guy was too hateful. It was not enough to vent his hatred without punching and kicking. Wishful thinking. The sect master was not in a hurry at all. He sneered, and two Xian Immortal experts appeared beside him. These two Xian Immortal experts were disciples of the sect. They were responsible for protecting the sect master. In fact, every sect master of a big sect had such experts beside him. But the situation had changed time and time again, and all sides had used their trump cards. Every Xian Immortal expert was a force to be reckoned with, so the sect masters had sent out their own experts to protect them. But they did not expect that the sect master would leave two experts behind. After releasing these two Xian Immortal experts, the sect master was waiting to see Yang Chun and Fatty Jing's panicked expression. But to his disappointment, Yang Chun and the others' faces did not change at all. Instead, the malicious look on their faces became stronger, which made the sect master have a bad feeling. Just as he was wondering why Yang Chun and the others were not panicking at all, a sharp whistle sounded behind him. Accompanying the whistle was Yang Chen's voice. "Oh, there are still experts, but their opponents are over there." As Yang Chun pointed his finger, the sect master turned his head and saw a situation he did not want to see the most. There were 6 beautiful women standing side by side in that direction. They were Yang Chen's 6 wives and concubines. However, what made the leader of the 1,000 Demon Sect despair was not the 6 of them, but the 6 Xian Immortal experts in front of them. Then the sect master remembered that every one of Yang Chen's wives and concubines was a Xian Immortal great monster that was rescued from the Zhao family seal. 6 against 2. Yang Chen's side had the absolute upper hand. The Zhao families would attribute Dragon Palace was their last resort. It was specially used to deal with the Murong sisters' dragon puppets. However, the Dragon Palace was so important that not everyone could come in even if they were on the same side as him. Apart from a myriad demon sect leader and the two Xian Immortal experts who were in charge of protecting him, none of the experts from the Zhao family could enter the Dragon Palace. On the one hand, it was because the Dragon Palace was precious. On the other hand, the owner of the Dragon Palace did not want too many people to defile his palace. Of course, the most important reason was that if the masters of the Zhao family could come in, they could also let the masters of the major sect come in. It was not easy to trap the dragon puppets. Once too many masters came in, they might be able to break the dragon trap array. At that time, the loss would outweigh the gain. It was based on these considerations that although there were many masters outside, no one could enter the Dragon Palace. Not to mention that the sect master of the 10,000 demon sect was only in charge of the Dragon Palace. Even if he was in charge of the Dragon Palace, Xiao Tian had taken the Dragon Tower to control the center. It was impossible for him to let the masters in. At this time, the sect master of the 10,000 demon sect thought it was strange. How did Yang Chun bring people into the Dragon Palace? But soon he had no doubts. As the sect master of a super sect, he would always know more than others. Yang Chun must have a relationship with the Dragon Clan. This could be seen from the dragon-shaped pill patterns on Yang Chen's medicinal pills. Not to mention that when he was in the Five Elements sect, there were really masters of the Dragon Clan who appeared to support Yang Chun. With such unique conditions, if Yang Chun couldn't even enter the Dragon Palace, it would be a big joke. Since it was not strange how Yang Chun could come in with people, then it was the sect master of the 10,000 demon sects turn to panic. Now that the strength of Yang Chen's side had occupied the absolute upper hand, if Yang Chun went out and brought in a few Xian Immortal masters, wouldn't the dragon trap array be insecure? Sometimes things were like this, they couldn't be talked about. Just when the sect master of the 10,000 demon sect was worried about whether there would be a problem with the dragon trap array, the dragon trap array immediately had a problem. As soon as Yang Chun entered the Dragon Palace, he released his spiritual awareness threads to carefully explore the dragon trap array. Soon, he discovered the clues. This so-called trap dragon array was clearly an enhanced version of the siege array that trapped Mu Bai and Yi Yu. It could trap people without hurting them, but it could make the people inside helpless. Whether it was spiritual power or spiritual awareness, it could not pass through. It was very tight. Obviously, the Zhao family learned from this dragon trap array and used it on Mu Bo and Yi Yu. However, for the Zhao family, such a powerful array was placed in front of Yang Chun, which was an absolute tragedy. First, Xiao Tian had been able to temporarily control the Dragon Palace. The real owner of the Dragon Palace was still unknown. Xiao Tian, who directly placed the Dragon Tower on the control center, didn't even need to think about it. In the Dragon Palace, Xiao Tian could basically do whatever he wanted. Naturally, he could barely do it if he wanted to release a certain array. Secondly, Yang Chun was around. Since he knew that the array was similar to the one he encountered before, there was no reason to let it go. The Immortal Beheading Blade stabbed gently and made a hole in the dragon trap array. This hole was enough for the dragon puppets and the sect masters trapped in the array to come out easily. Murong, don't destroy this array, just come out. Yang Chun pierced the array and did not forget to tell the Murong sisters inside. After there was a hole, the dragon puppets could easily destroy the dragon trap array. However, Yang Chun was not willing to waste God's gifts, so he left it for Gong Sunling to study. In the future, when he did not want to offend the Dragon Clan too much, this array would be the first choice. After finishing here, Yang Chun waved the black bracelet in his hand, turned around, and smashed it on the head of the 10,000 demon sect master who had already revealed his original appearance. His original appearance was a huge lion. He had just opened his mouth and wanted to roar at Yang Chun, the culprit who destroyed his wishful thinking. He was almost knocked out by Yang Chen's bracelet. Yang Chen's hands were very measured. He did not smash him to death at once, but just smashed him to the point where he was dizzy and unable to control himself. The huge teeth in his mouth directly spat out several. Chapter 1956. This scene happened to be seen by the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island, who had just escaped from the dragon trap array and directly shouted, "Good job. I am indebted to the senior's favor." This junior is terrified and ashamed. Yang Chan immediately put away the bracelet and rushed to the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island with a smile on his face. He looked like a well-behaved baby. How serious he was. In such a short time, the dragon puppet had already escaped from the dragon trap array and once again showed its huge size and powerful momentum. With the protection of the dragon palace, the dragon puppet no longer needed to protect the sect masters. It roared and rushed out of the dragon palace, rushing to the place with the most monsters. With the reappearance of the dragon puppet, the morale of the masters of the sect who had been suppressed suddenly rose again, and in contrast, the Zhao family and the monsters who fled in all directions were incredible. Under the oppression of the dragon puppet with an angry aura, those monsters who only knew the enemy could not maintain their usual madness. The only thought in their mind was to escape from this place immediately. The masters of all parties once again began to kill. If the monsters wanted to escape, they would ignore them first. The first problem was to solve the Zhao family's cultivators first. Whether it was the Three River Alliance, the Holocaust sect, or the 10,000 Demon sect, these cultivators with ideas and wisdom were the biggest problems for everyone. As long as those monsters were not a united force, there was nothing to worry about. After today, there would be time to slowly clean them up. For a time, the sect parties once again gained the upper hand. The dragon puppet had begun to attack the Xian immortal cultivators under the control of the Murong sisters. The efficiency of the killing was not ordinary. When the sect masters came out of the dragon trap formation, the 2 guards of the 10,000 Demon Sect's sect master and the 6 Xian immortal great demons had been transferred by Xiao Tian. Only Fatty Jing and the others were left in the square, happily punching and kicking the 10,000 Demon Sect's sect master. Their mouths were cheering, and they were very happy. Seeing that the situation had been completely stabilized, the sect masters were relieved, and they also had the leisure to slowly enjoy the scene of the giant lion being abused by a few guys who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Several sect masters even clapped and cheered on the side. Beat him up, beat him until his mother can't recognize him. Sect Master Li was the most unrestrained, completely unaware that his image had been ruined. The situation just now was too dangerous. If Yang Chun hadn't arrived at the right time and controlled the Dragon Palace to release the dragon puppet, it would be hard to say what would have happened outside. If everything went out of control, then the biggest sinner would be Sect Master Li of the mysterious Heaven Sect. One could imagine how much pressure he had just endured. Now that the crisis had been resolved, Sect Master Li, who needed to release his pressure, was naturally the happiest. All of this was thanks to the sovereign of the 10,000 Demons sect. Although keeping him alive was still useful, and they might be able to dig out more of the Zhao family's secrets, he couldn't die just yet. But watching Fatty Jing and Ho Yun beat up the sovereign of the 10,000 Demons sect was a great way to vent their anger. It wasn't just sect leader Li. The other sect leaders were also gnashing their teeth in hatred towards the 10,000 Demon sect leader. They wished that they could personally join in the fight. If it weren't for the identity and image of the sect leader, they might have already rushed up. But now it looked good. This hateful guy was being tortured like this in front of them. It was a relief. Yang Chun was very amusing. He walked directly to Sect Master Li's side, smiled, and took out a big stick that looked very heavy. He urged Sect Master Li, "Senior, there are no outsiders here. Do you want to do it yourself? I believe you will be able to make your thoughts clear." With outsiders present, Yang Chun certainly wouldn't take the initiative to expose his relationship with Sect Master Li, so he only called him Senior. Sect Master Li was also well aware of this, so he didn't say anything. The two of them had a tacit understanding. For Yang Chun, this disciple who turned the tide at a critical moment, Sect Master Li didn't know how to express his satisfaction. Now that Yang Chun had given him an excuse to do it himself, Sect Master Li suddenly became happy. "I'll use my own." As he spoke, Sect Master Li had put on a ferocious boxing glove on each of his hands. The spikes more than an inch long on it had fully demonstrated the power of this boxing glove. With a loud shout, Sect Master Li rushed up directly and punched the giant lion, who had been suppressed by Fatty Jing and had no power to resist. He shouted as he punched, and he was extremely carefree. This scene directly stunned the other sect masters. When they looked at Yang Chun turned his gaze directly in another direction and said very solemnly, "This junior is very busy and didn't see anything." With Yang Chun taking the lead, Gao Yu and the others still didn't know what to do. They all covered their mouths and turned in other directions with the same annoying tone. This junior found that the room is very good. Let's go and take a look. This disciple will go and see what good things there are. This disciple will help solve the two masters. In short, Yang Chen's wives and concubines dispersed in the blink of an eye and rushed into the palace complex. Anyway, everyone understood that this dragon palace must be in their husband's pocket again, which meant it was a part of their home. First, they went to see if there was a suitable room to grab. Yang Chen's wives and concubines were tactful, and Mu Bo and the others were not fools. Seeing this, how could they not know what to do? This junior is going to study the array. This junior's hand hurts. I have to heal it. This junior suddenly remembered that there is still a magic weapon to sacrificial refine. A series of strange reasons came out of everyone's mouths, and then except for Fatty Jing, everyone else followed Gao Yu and the others and disappeared from the palace, leaving only Fatty Jing, who was suppressing the giant lion, and Yang Chun, who didn't know where to look. The key was still the words, "No outsiders" and "clear thoughts." Since even Sect Master Li of the Mysterious Heaven Sect didn't care about his image and went up to fight, how could the people who were already itching to fight? One by one, like Sect Master Li, they directly took out their own weapons and swarmed up. These sect masters were simply too ferocious after disregarding their image. Just now, Ho Yun and the others were punching and kicking, but now the sect masters were all swinging their weapons. They simply didn't see the sect master of the 10,000 demon sect as a cultivator. The smashing of each other made Yang Chun, who had been pretending not to see it, couldn't help but twitch his lips. Yang Chun, give him a Ganoderma jade pill. The most excessive was Sect Master Chui of the Five Elements sect. Relying on the fact that his disciples were Yang Chen's concubines, and there were 5 of them, his words were simply like an old father-in-law ordering his son-in-law, "Heal him and beat him again, otherwise I won't be able to think clearly." Chapter 1957. Yang Chen never thought that the status of a big figure like Sect Master Chui, after letting go of his hands and feet and violently beating an opponent, would have such a practice. Not only did he beat his opponent half to death, he also wanted to use the best elixir to heal his injury and beat him again. He had never seen such a bully. But before Yang Chen said anything, a group of people had already opened their mouths, and Yang Chen's words were directly blocked in his throat, and he could no longer say it. Yes, heal him and beat him again. I didn't have enough fun just now. This time, change the weapon. Don't use the weapon. Just use your fists and feet to be happier. Listening to this group of people unscrupulously playing the role of the lowest level of gangsters in the most ordinary city in the mortal world, saying this kind of words that were completely not in line with their identity, Yang Chun decisively shut up and then took out 2 Lingji mushroom jade pills and threw them into the mouth of the 10,000 demon sect master, who had been opened by Fatty Jing's big hand. After shaking his head and feeling sad for the poor sect master of 10,000 demon sect, Yang Chun turned his attention to the battlefield outside. The Dragon Palace had Shao Tian and the Dragon Tower, so it was definitely safe. Even if the Dragon Palace had an owner, the original owner was definitely not within 1,000,000 miles. The old owner of the Dragon Palace, who was so far away, under the suppression of Shao Tian, it was estimated that he could not even control the Dragon Palace to fly. He had never heard of someone being able to control their own magic treasures from thousands of miles away, as if they were their own arms. It could be said that this Dragon Palace had already belonged to Yang Chun, unless the owner of the Dragon Palace could arrive in a short time. And there was also a premise that was the owner of the Dragon Palace had to be able to beat the Dragon Puppet and Lin Jungyuan. Otherwise, even if he arrived, he would just be sending himself to his death. As soon as he turned to the outside, Yang Qin's mood became better. On the whole scene, the masters of the major sect really occupied the advantage this time and won again and again. If this trend continued, it would only be a matter of time before the experts from Three River Alliance, Holocaust Sect, and Thousand Demon Sect were eliminated. This was especially so for the dragon puppets that the Murong sisters controlled. They were like tigers that had grown wings. Forget about the experts who went around to get rid of trouble. They had already forced the Holocaust Sect Master and the Great Elder into a corner. These two people were the highest leaders in Holocaust Sect, and they were also the instigators of the series of events that happened later on. They were also the commanders at the scene, so naturally, the Murong sisters would not let them go so easily. In the face of an intermediate golden immortal stage dragon puppet, even though it didn't have its own consciousness and was being controlled by someone, Holocaust Sect Master and Great Elder were still complaining in their hearts. Even though he had a large group of experts around him, such a huge gap in cultivation level was simply like cheating in the spiritual world's intermediate golden immortal realm. If he was lucky, he might be able to withstand 1 or 2 attacks. If he was unlucky, he wouldn't even be able to withstand one. There was no such thing as strength at all. They wanted to escape, but the tragic thing was that before the battle started, the number 1 disciples of each major sect had already set up a formation around the perimeter of 10,000 miles to prevent any Three River Alliance disciple from escaping. Only entry was allowed, but no exit was allowed. Even the place where Yang Chun rescued Mu Bo and the others was within the range of the formation. This was done by each major sect. On the other hand, the 3 sect controlled by the Zhao family had also set up a similar formation for the same purpose. It was also within the formation of each major sect that only entry was allowed, but no exit was allowed. Both formations were very similar. Even though it wasn't as strong as the dragon trapping formation where all kinds of aura and divine sense couldn't pass through, it was still able to block cultivators. 1 or 2 Xian immortal cultivators wouldn't be able to break the seal of the formation. If they could gather tens or hundreds of Xian immortal cultivators, they might be able to open a gap at the edge of one of the formations. However, now that all the cultivators were entangled in a battle, how many Xian immortal cultivators would be able to find the time to specially break a sealing formation? There were many Xian immortal demonic beasts, but these demonic beasts could only distinguish between friend and foe. They couldn't listen to commands. Stimulated by the aura of the dragon puppet, the Xian immortal demonic beasts ran around without any organization. When they bumped into the edge of the sealing formation and realized that they couldn't pass through, these demonic beasts with their simple intelligence wouldn't even think about breaking the formation. The Holocaust Sect Master and Great Elder were now faced with such a tragic situation. They couldn't beat them, and they couldn't escape either. What was even more discouraging was that when they discovered that there was a huge flaw in their almost foolproof arrangements, and the situation of unifying the world was completely broken, the 2 great figures also helplessly developed a feeling of despair, as if they had exhausted all their schemes. Under the influence of such emotions, the 2 of them didn't even have the courage to commit suicide. They were originally living well and were about to become the master of the spiritual realm. Suddenly, they were about to become prisoners. No one could accept such a change. Committing suicide required a huge amount of courage. If they didn't even have the courage, how could they expect them to kill them without hesitation? At this moment, the Holocaust Sect Master and Great Elder hated the ancestor of the Zhao family. The dragon puppet's ability was obviously their own, but the ancestor became the key to their own death. They clearly had the power to wipe out all the super sect in the spiritual realm, but they just had to play the strategy of hiding their strength. Now, they had to face such a bitter result. What exactly were they planning? Of course, the 2 of them knew that the Zhao family couldn't be exposed. Once the Zhao family sent out all the experts and wiped out all the super sect, what awaited them wouldn't be glory and wealth, but the experts from the immortal world who would descend at all costs to eradicate the Zhao family. It wasn't that they didn't want to do it, but they couldn't. If they didn't expose the Zhao family when they were in the mortal world, they wouldn't end up in such a state. At the end of the day, it was because of their carelessness that they were caught. The winner takes all, and the loser is in the wrong. There was no need to say anything else. Everyone had such an understanding when faced with such a situation. Yang Chun, who was far away, also sensed the situation over here with his divine sense. He turned his head to look at the other sect masters who were beating up the 1,000-demon sect master for the second time. Yang Chun suddenly had an idea. He opened his throat and shouted loudly at the Murong sisters. "Murong, capture the Holocaust sect master and great elder alive." Yang Chun opened his voice, and his voice was so loud that almost half of the battlefield could hear it clearly. The sect masters, they want to interrogate them personally. After he shouted, he realized that it might affect the Murong sisters, so he added, "It's fine as long as they don't die." Hearing Yang Chen's words, the Murong sisters became even more spirited, and they attacked the Holocaust sect master and great elder fiercely. Good idea. Yang Chen didn't need to turn his head to hear the Yin Yang Demon School sect master's praise. I really want to interrogate them personally. Chapter 1958. The meaning of this personal interrogation was definitely a completely different concept to the outside and inside the Dragon Palace. Perhaps only the people inside the Dragon Palace could understand this point. That's right, I just want to interrogate them properly. The sect master of Blue Cloud sect punched the last remaining tooth in the 1,000-demon sect master's mouth and sent it flying. Then, she turned around and agreed with the words of the Yin Yang Demon School sect master. As soon as she finished speaking, a bunch of voices of agreement immediately followed. The sect master of Blue Cloud sect agreed with the Yin Yang Demon School sect master's opinion without hesitation. There were actually people from other demon sects, demon clans, and Row Cultivators Alliance who agreed. This was probably the first time in the spiritual realm. But now, everyone was interrogating the criminal together. They were so happy that they actually achieved such a result. After the sect master of Chinkoin's sect punched out fiercely, he twisted his neck a few times in an exaggerated manner, making a series of cracking sounds. He blurted out a praise, satisfying. This is even more satisfying than taking a bath and massaging. After saying that, he punched out fiercely again. Then he turned around and did a standard 720-degree whirlwind kick. The Murong sisters did not let Yang Chen wait for long. To be exact, they did not let the sect masters wait for long. In just half an instant's time, the Murong sisters were riding on the back of the dragon puppet. The dragon claws grabbed the Holocaust sect master and the great elder and flew back to the Dragon Palace. Just as he put down the two captives who had completely lost their combat power, Murong Han was shocked to see his always serious master making an exaggerated downward kick in the air, causing the huge body inside to cave in. Although he was kicking, Sect Master Chui was still yelling nonstop. His extremely satisfying voice, coupled with the rich expression on his face, made Murong Han dumbfounded. Murong Yin was also dumbfounded. She was staring at the Black Heaven Sect Master Li, who was torturing the same target with a series of extremely fast and lifelike punches. Murong Bai, who was next to him, was stunned to find that the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island, who had always been a lady of a noble family, was lifting her skirt with one hand and taking turns to kick the rotten meat. Yang Chun, feed me another one. I haven't had enough yet. The sect leader of Wuji Demon School of the Demon Sect yelled and danced with amazing butterfly steps. He held a brick-like object in each of his hands and slammed it on the piece of meat with both hands. The Murong sisters did not know what to say. Finally, it was Yang Chun who spoke up in time to help them out of their predicament. Hurry up and go. If the leader of the Tri-River Alliance is here, the seniors will need to interrogate him personally. Go. Hurry up, hurry up. Sect Master Chui finally raised his head to look at the Murong sisters. He then waved his hand and instructed his beloved disciples. Remember to capture them and send them over as soon as possible. The 5 Murong sisters had an expression of holding back their laughter. They solemnly agreed and quickly manipulated the dragon puppet to leave the Dragon Palace and flew to the mountain gate of the Tri-River Alliance. However, as soon as they flew out of the Dragon Palace, the 5 women could no longer hold back their laughter. They bent over and laughed wildly. Their bell-like laughter spread all the way. The sect leader and the great elder of the Holocaust sect were also captured. This meant that this battle had already been won by 90%. Only the people of the Tri-River Alliance were left. No matter how powerful they could not make any waves. At most, they could only rely on the arrangement of the local mountain gate to resist for a while. However, in the face of the golden immortal intermediate stage dragon puppet, the final outcome was only a matter of time. In this case, it was understandable that the sect leaders were so unrestrained. Usually they were all serious big shots. It was rare to have this kind of moment where everyone collectively went crazy. As Yang Chun said, it was necessary to have a good idea and be in a good mood. Yang Chun had good eyesight. Without saying much, he sent 2 6th-grade merit Ganoderma jade pills to the master and great elder of the Holocaust sect, who were lying on the ground, directly into their mouths. At the same time, he did not forget to feed the 1,000 demon sect leader who had turned into a pile of rotten meat. Now that there were 3 targets, everyone's interest was piqued. They were divided into 3 groups. Each group had a few sect leaders to take care of. Now that there was no need for Fatty Jing to suppress them, the sect leaders had already restrained them. The 3 fellows had become the targets for the sect leaders to vent their anger on. In just a moment, the 3 fellows no longer had any shape and could no longer be seen. The one who attacked the most ruthlessly was the great elder of the vast origin cave. He held a mace in his hand and shouted every time he hit the ground. Cave Master is injured and is currently recuperating. What's wrong? If it wasn't for you, why would this old man be suspected? If the Cave Master doesn't come, then he's a suspect? This old man has never suffered this kind of humiliation in my entire life. Sentence by sentence, the great elder of the vast origin cave seemed to want to take revenge for the injustice he had suffered on the 3 of them. Not long ago, he was too aggrieved. Just because the Cave Master did not come, the great elder of the vast origin cave was also faintly ostracized by others. He had to vent his anger no matter what. Only then did Yang Chun know that the vast origin cave master was seriously injured and was recuperating. He didn't know how serious the injury was, but he probably used his own combination of pills. In this situation, it was fine if the great elder didn't come, but he was implicated by the Blood Holocaust sect for no reason. No wonder he was so desperate. If it was Yang Chun himself, he would also vent his anger if he had the chance. This time, the sect leaders were really satisfied. Among the main culprits, other than the alliance leader of the 3 River Alliance, the others were being personally interrogated by them. Was there anything more delightful than this? All of them were in a good mood. Just like what Yang Chun said, their thoughts were all clear. Seniors, this palace is really not bad. Seeing that the time was almost right, Yang Chun pretended to look at the palace group of the Dragon Palace, while intentionally shouting at the sect masters. The people of this younger generation junior also like it very much. It just happens that this younger generation junior still lacks a place to stay in the Immortal's cave. It is better to give this to this younger generation junior. All right, it belongs to you. Sect leader Li of the Mystic Heaven sect shouted without hesitation. Wasn't it clear what Yang Chun's intention was? Sect leader Li was naturally the first to agree. Wasn't it just a cave abode that might be the Dragon Palace? Yang Chun had made such a huge contribution. It was only right to reward him with a Dragon Palace. Otherwise, everyone would be annihilated. Anyway, Yang Chun's shout was also at the right time. Elderly regarded it as his own happy self and agreed. Under this situation, would there be anyone who disagreed? Since the 3 River Alliance, the Holocaust sect, and the 1,000 Demon sect were annihilated, there had to be rewards. Since Yang Chun was interested in this Dragon Palace, why not give it to him as a reward? Chapter 1959. Just as Sect Masterly expected, everyone at the scene actually owed Yang Chun a huge favor just now. Elder Li had just casually agreed under the guise of feeling good, and the other sect masters also took advantage of the situation and used the same opportunity to agree. Even though the sect masters were unrestrained on the surface, their hearts were as clear as a mirror. Just like how the great elder of Vast Origin Cave had said that he would beat him up once he said that. That was not for the Holocaust sect leader and the 1,000 Demons sect leader to hear, but for the other sect leaders to hear. The ones who had wronged him were not the Holocaust sect leader and the Thousand Demon sect leader, but the other sect leaders who had not believed him. There was no doubt that Yang Chun was related to the Dragon Clan, so his request for the Dragon Palace was also within everyone's expectations. To the sect masters, Yang Chun obtaining the Dragon Palace was more reassuring than any other sect. The special thing about the Dragon Palace was that there was a dragon trapping array on the plaza. And this dragon trapping array could actually trap a golden immortal intermediate stage dragon puppet, making it impossible for it to move. The sect masters had tasted it before, so they naturally knew how powerful it was. It was obvious that this Dragon Palace was the natural enemy of the dragon puppet. If it was allowed, every sect would want to obtain this immortal cave treasure. But everyone knew that this was impossible. Other than Five Element sect, any other sect that obtained the Dragon Palace would naturally be standing on the opposite side of Five Element sect. The dragon puppet was a strategic weapon that was now Five Element sect's treasure. At least before the Murong sisters ascended, with the dragon puppet, Five Element sect would be safe and wouldn't be threatened by any other sect, not even the Zhao family. But if they had this Dragon Palace, they would have a way to restrain the dragon puppet. Five Element sect would never allow a super sect to control this immortal cave treasure and suppress Five Element sect. If such a thing really happened, after the Three River Alliance incident, Five Element sect and some other sect would definitely fight to the death. It might even involve the entire Dao sects. The other sect could not do it, and neither could the Five Element school. The other sect would never tolerate the Five Element sect possessing the dragon puppet and occupying the dragon palace that could restrain the dragon puppet. If that happened, the Five Element sect would immediately become a great threat to all the other sects. One day, the Five Element sect might become the public enemy of the second super sect besides the Zhao family. Since none of the sect members were suitable to control such a powerful weapon, Yang Chun, who had a good relationship with everyone, became the first choice. He was also a target that everyone was willing to trust. Yang Chun was very suitable. His wives and concubines belonged to the five major sects of the Dao sect. Now, Yang Chun would not be biased towards any sect, nor would he be an enemy of that sect. In particular, Yang Chun's concubines, the Murong sisters, were in control of the dragon puppet, so it made sense that the dragon trapping array was in Yang Chun's hands. For the Dao sect, the dragon puppet, a powerful weapon, and the dragon trap array that could restrain the dragon puppet were in the hands of the people of the Dao sect. This was obviously in line with the interests of the entire Dao sect. For the demon sect, the demon clan, and the rogue cultivators alliance, it was obviously more acceptable for Yang Chun to control it than any other super sect. Moreover, everyone knew that the actual controller of the Dragon Palace was Yang Chun. Even if they didn't give it to him, would Yang Chun take the initiative to hand it over? Therefore, for these reasons, everyone tacitly gave the Dragon Palace to Yang Chun. In this way, there would not be any dispute, and it was a happy ending for everyone. Although Yang Chun had actually controlled the Dragon Palace, since it was obtained in such a large-scale battle, it was reasonable for him to keep it in his hands. Just now, when everyone was happy, he mentioned this sentence and naturally got the agreement of all the sect masters. It was justifiable for him to take the Dragon Palace, and no one could say a word of objection. If anyone was dissatisfied, they could argue with the sect masters of the major sect. Not many people would have the guts to do so. Not only was Yang Chun happy, but Yang Chun's wives and concubines were also happy. Obtaining this Wood Element Dragon Palace meant that Yang Chun had gathered 4 of the 5 Elements Dragon Palace, and only the Metal Element Dragon Palace was left. However, since he had succeeded in obtaining 4 of the 5 elements, would the last one be far behind? The dragon puppet was indeed a strategic weapon. At least on the battlefield, no cultivator dared to take the initiative to attack the dragon puppet. The Murong sisters easily controlled the dragon puppet to fly to the mountain gate of the Three River Alliance. After killing and questioning a few experts of the Blue Cloud sect, the Murong sisters returned to the Dragon Palace with the 2 core elders of the Three River Alliance. Unfortunately, the leader of the Three River Alliance had disappeared without a trace. Although the area had been sealed, it didn't mean there was no way to escape. The seal was tight, but it was impossible to completely seal the underground. If one had the intention, they could have gone thousands of miles underground, like how Yang Chen searched for the Fire Dragon Palace. No matter how powerful the array was, it wouldn't have been able to reach that place. Ordinary cultivators could not escape because they were constantly entangled by experts in a battlefield. However, the leader of the Three River Alliance was heavily protected. Seeing that the dragon puppet was trapped and then reappeared, the leader knew that the situation was hopeless, so he decisively left a substitute and escaped alone. One should know that this was the mountain gate of the Three River Alliance. There were countless disciples in the Three River Alliance, not just Shin Immortal level disciples. This time, the disciples of the Three River Alliance below the Heaven Immortal level didn't appear because they hid in a spatial magic treasure. The leader escaped alone because he wanted to use the Shin Immortal disciples to entangle the experts of the other sect to escape with this group of disciples. These were all seeds, and there was still a chance for them to rise again in the future. Even if the Three River Alliance could no longer stand, these hundreds of thousands of human immortal and earth immortal disciples were still a huge resource for the Zhao family. In such a big battle, no matter how confident they had a plan for the worst. This was the decision made by the Three River Alliance when they knew that they would have to face the alliance of the other major sect, and it was also the last method to preserve their strength. It was impossible to truly wipe out a sect in a short period of time, especially when the Three River Alliance had the backing of the Zhao family. Regarding this, not only some of the core members of the Three River Alliance knew this, but even the sect leaders of the other major sect knew this very well. This battle was said to wipe out the Three River Alliance, but in reality, it was mainly to wipe out the top forces of the Three River Alliance. Without these experts, no matter how many ordinary disciples the Three River Alliance had, it would still be a second-rate sect, even worse than the current Chunyang Palace. When they saw the two core elders of the Three River Alliance, the sect leaders knew that it was impossible to capture the leader of the Three River Alliance. Chapter 1960. Eliminating the core strength of the Three River Alliance was the basic battle goal that everyone had set at the beginning of the battle. Other than this, being able to expand the results of the battle was one point. No one asked for more. During the period of waiting, the various sect leaders had already vented their frustrations on the Thousand Goblin sect leader, the Holocaust sect leader, and the Great Elder. When the Murong sisters arrived with the two core elders of the Three River Alliance, the various sect leaders had already regained their sage-like appearances. They were no longer as inconceivable as before. However, what surprised Yangshun and the girls was that venting really made the sect leaders feel better. In less than 2 hours of venting, there were actually 3 sect leaders whose divine sense cultivation increased by small realm, and 4 sect leaders' spiritual power cultivation increased by small realm, including the vast origin cave's great elder. Such a miraculous effect made these great figures, who had never hit their enemies with their fists and never enjoyed this kind of hearty trampling on their enemies, extremely surprised. If they knew there would be such an outcome, they might have done a long time ago. Everyone looked at Yangshan with a rather strange gaze. No wonder Yangshan was able to recover his cultivation in just a few hundred years after being crippled. He really had some skill. Yangshan was also abnormally speechless. Who knew that a small joke would cause such an outcome? This ending was really not Yang Chen's original intention, but he couldn't explain himself even if he had a whole body full of mouths. He could only bite the bullet and accept this unintentional little credit. The entire battle situation was considered to be basically stable now. The dragon puppet attacked again, and the experts of the Zhao family were retreating again and again, with almost no strength to fight back. However, they were Xian immortal experts after all, so they couldn't be killed so easily. Moreover, these guys knew that they would die for sure, so they counterattacked and killed many experts of the various big sect. Finally, with the dragon puppet's presence, after killing a few of the Zhao family's most stubborn resistance, the Zhao family's arrangement in the Tri-River Alliance was completely lost, and there was no possibility of a comeback. Next, it was time to clean up the last batch of struggling experts and then place a bounty on the heads of the Three River Alliance's disciples in the spiritual realm. The former might take more than a month, while the latter might last for hundreds of years or even longer. Of course, there was another important event, and it was to clear out all the mysterious immortal realm demon beasts that were encircled in the battlefield. Although these demonic beasts weren't directly under the command of the Zhao family, they didn't attack the masters of the Zhao family. They only targeted the disciples of the major sect. Obviously, they were accomplices of the Zhao family and couldn't be left alive. However, the main target was the cultivators. The monsters could be dealt with later. Every sect's focus was the same, but Yangchen wouldn't do that. If he didn't seize such a good opportunity, wouldn't it be a waste of God's arrangement? A Ling, open a mountain river geographical map and let a few monsters in at any time. Yangchen pointed to Gong Sunling. As long as you go in, let Lin Junyuan and Elderbug attack and kill as many as you can. There are so many corpses of mysterious immortal realm demon beasts. Refining them into the mountain river geographical map would be beneficial. Gong Sunling was only a human immortal now, so it was obviously impossible for her to take the initiative to put a mysterious immortal expert into the mountain river geographical map. However, Gong Sunling could open a mountain river geographical map and simulate the same environment as the outside world. It was beyond Gong Sunling's power to take the mysterious immortal experts into the mountain river geographical map, but it was possible for these experts to rush in. As long as they entered the mountain river geographical map, it was not up to them. Gong Sunling could move them to the place she wanted them to appear at any time. The reason why she wanted to kill them quickly was because she was afraid that these guys would gather too much power and might destroy the mountain river geographical map. Of course, the corpses of dead demon beasts and experts were good things that could supplement the nutrition of the mountain river geographical map. Gong Sunling did not hesitate to follow Yang Chen's instructions. Fatty Jing, Mu Bo, and the others happily followed into the mountain river geographical map. Even Yang Chen's other wives and concubines were no exception. There were not many opportunities to fight with mysterious immortal experts. Even if it was not a decisive force, as long as they could participate, there would be huge gains. Yang Chen guided Gong Sunling in front of the sect masters, without the slightest intention of avoiding them. For Yang Chen's little thoughts, none of the sect masters cared. Even the biggest dragon palace was given to Yang Chen. What was a few demon beast corpses? Moreover, after the cultivators killed the demon beasts, they would certainly collect the corpses. If Gong Sunling wanted to collect the demon beast corpses, she could only kill them herself. This was the capture of the winner. It was in line with the rules, and no one would object. Sect Master Li could no longer suppress the smile on his face. The Three River Alliance was about to be destroyed, and it also meant that as the sect master of Shantian's sect, he once again showed his power and made great contributions. In front of the cultivators, Elder Li, the leader, had completely established his authority and reputation. From then on, when people mentioned the sect master of Shantian's sect, they no longer needed to specifically refer to Sect Master Li. As long as the sect master of Shantian's sect was mentioned, it referred to Sect Master Li, Li Hiyu. No one else could confuse it, not even Sect Master Wang who had ascended. Think about it. Since the founding of Shantian's sect, no sect master had been able to achieve the great achievement of destroying 3 super sect in one battle. But now Li Hiyu had done it. His achievements were high, and his reputation was so great that no one could match him. Not to say that there would be no one in the future, but it could be called unprecedented. Perhaps such achievements could catch up to the current Jade Emperor who controlled the heavenly court. All of this seemed to have been brought about by his disciple, Yang Chen. This time, Yang Chen not only provided Sect Master Li with an opportunity to destroy the Three River Alliance, but also saved everyone's lives and future at a critical moment. It could almost be said that he had saved the cultivators of the entire spiritual realm. Not only that, Yang Chen also decisively took the opportunity to take the dragon trapping array. What was the difference between this array in the hands of Yang Chen and in the hands of Sect Master Li? Would Sect Master Li refuse to use Yang Chen if he wanted to? For the other sect masters, Yang Chun had already obtained the Dragon Palace and received the reward he deserved, but for Sect Master Li, this was far from enough. Sect Master Li was now a little worried about what good thing he should use to reward his outstanding junior. This was really a happy worry, wasn't it? It was different from what Sect Master Li was thinking about. Sect Master Li had to worry about how to reward and how to end things. How to distribute the territories of the three sect in the future were very complicated things. But Yang Chun only needed to think about how to get greater benefits from this incident. The leader of the Three River Alliance, who had escaped, seemed to be the greatest benefit. As long as he found him, he didn't have to worry about the greatest benefits not falling on him. Yang Chen's mind was already thinking about the most likely place for the leader of the Three River Alliance to stay. Chapter 1961. Of course, the benefits in the future were all in the future. The important thing now was to get the benefits in front of him first. The Wood Dragon Palace was in front of him. He had to collect it first. Xiao Tian and the Dragon Pagoda could barely control the entry and exit of the Dragon Palace temporarily. It would take a long time to make the Dragon Palace his. Fortunately, he could forcibly place a spiritual sense imprint for the time being. After collecting it, he could slowly find time to refine it. The Zhao clan actually made a Dragon Palace. Yang Chun was a little puzzled. It seemed that he had to talk to Ao Lan about some things. As for Ao Lai, that fellow came to the spiritual world at the same time as Yang Chun. He probably also did not understand the situation. Xiao Tian was working, so Yang Chun did not disturb him. Anyway, Xiao Tian's desire for the Dragon Palace was no worse than Yang Chun. Didn't you see that they were drooling together at that time? Only the poor Long Xin knew that he was not qualified. He honestly carried Yang Chen's merits. Anyway, with this merit steal, it was enough for him to eat for a lifetime. He did not know how the other Swanee were, but Long Xian was very clear that the merits recorded on his steel were almost motionless. The bottleneck was his cultivation, not Yang Chen's merits. Right now, he just had to work hard to improve his cultivation. The girls were now obedient to Yang Chen's instructions. There was no other reason. So far, they had not found that Yang Chen's opinions were wrong. Gong Sunling was now following Yang Chen's instructions. She opened the mountain river geographical map to a limited extent and then distributed it within a certain range. As long as any cultivator or demonic beast was within this range, they could freely enter the mountain river geographical map. After all, she was just a human immortal. Even if the mountain river geographical map was a magic treasure of the dragon race, the master's cultivation was too low. It still limited its performance. It was almost impossible to take the initiative to collect Xian immortal experts. Unless they were seriously injured and their strength was affected, they could only use this method of waiting. However, there were too many Xian immortal masters on the huge battlefield. Tens of thousands of Xian immortal masters and more celestial immortal masters would always enter a certain area unknowingly in the battle and then fall into the control of Gong Sunling. For the masters of the major sects, Gong Sunling would let them go, but as long as it was the people of the Zhao family or those monsters, it would not be polite. It would be directly sent to the appropriate place. And then there would be a large group of people who were afraid of the world not being in chaos. They would swarm up and attack. Apart from Zhou Xianying, the rest of the girls were at the human immortal stage. Among his friends, only Fatty Jing had reached the heaven immortal stage. In addition to Yang Chen's disciple, everyone needed this kind of rare combat experience. Anyway, in the Mountain River geographical map, there were the women's bodyguards, the 6 Xian immortal great demons, the suppression of the Mountain River geographical map, the omnipresent sound assistance of Zhou Xianying, and Fatty Jing who couldn't beat but could still withstand the beating. Almost none of the masters who came in could escape the result of being bullied to the extreme by a group of juniors. Ordinary Heaven Immortal experts were directly suppressed by Fatty Jing and Zhou Xianying. With the assistance of others, they could always fight evenly. As for the Xian Immortal experts, the great demons would first greet them. After they were injured, everyone would swarm them together. Even during the battle, Gong Sunling would ensure that Lin Jingyuan could be moved into the battle circle at any time. As long as anyone was in danger, Lin Jingyuan would appear and kill any opponent in an instant. For any cultivator, being able to fight with masters who were 3 realms above them was indescribable for them. Even if they were facing an injured Xian Immortal expert, they were still a Xian Immortal expert after all. After facing less than 10 Xian Immortal experts, Lan Ning, an old tree demon, had already had great insights and directly went into seclusion. Although the others had not reached that point, everyone could feel their own progress. Zhou Xianying's sense of existence was very low these days. Her cultivation base was the highest, and she didn't want to stand out among the women, so she was very low-key. But when it came to the real battle, everyone could realize her horror. The heavenly phoenix Zither was re-refined by Big Brother Li Cheng, adding several materials made from the body of the dragon clan, and its power was directly doubled. It was the foundation of a first-class magic weapon. After this refining, it was like a tiger with wings. In the hands of Zhou Xianying, it was simply invincible. At the most ruthless time, Zhou Xianying could even fight against a master in the early Xian Immortal stage with her 4th grade Heaven Immortal cultivation base. The strength of her cultivation base made people dumbfounded. Shi Shanshan was always a one-hit kill. For a Heaven Immortal expert, as long as the other party was careless, they would be seriously injured even if they didn't die. Even against a Xian Immortal expert, the supreme pure Yang Sword Qi could more or less leave a clear wound on the other party. The strength of the attack power was unparalleled. Relatively speaking, the performance of the other women was slightly mediocre. But even if everyone felt that their performance was not good, if it was released to the outside world, it would definitely make countless people's jaws break. Whether it was Gao Yu's Dragon Horn Flying Sword and 100 Spirits battle armor, Sun Qingshua's ultimate demonic vine doppelganger, or Tao Junkie's natal magic weapon, they all left a very deep impression on everyone. Who had ever seen a cultivator with a human immortal cultivation base who could withstand the attack of a Heaven Immortal or even a Xian Immortal expert for the time it takes to burn a stick of incense? Usually, when these two kinds of cultivators with great disparity in strength met, the human Immortal Junior would only be killed in seconds. Ho Yun, on the other hand, had always been strong and heavy. The big stick in his hand had completely integrated with the tail over the years, almost becoming a part of his body. Later, he plundered a lot of good things from the Wanbao Tower, which was carefully re-refined by Gao Yu. Whether it was the weight or the quality, it had been improved by several realms. When the stick smashed down, even if it was a Heaven Immortal expert, if he did not use the spiritual power of his whole body to resist, it would not be good. The old tree demon Shikue, Xiesha, and Lan Ning all had the same style, savage and fierce. Lan Ning also had a kind of extreme ruthlessness that others did not have. These monster race friends of Yang Chun, under these years of experience, their strength had improved slightly, but their real combat effectiveness had increased exponentially. With their human immortal late-stage cultivation base, their combat effectiveness was already on par with the cultivators in the Earth Immortal middle stage. The extreme ones like the old tree demon had even surpassed this level and could even fight with the cultivators in the Earth Immortal late stage. Needless to say, as long as he sacrificed the merit monument, even a Xian Immortal master could not hurt him. Most of the time, Long Xian was alone in the front, and everyone followed behind to take advantage. Everyone cooperated with an unusual tacit understanding. On the battlefield, there were only a few juniors who did not belong to the major sect. Of course, Yang Chun could not stay in the Dragon Palace and wander around. He now had a new profession, the battlefield doctor. Chapter 1962. When it came to healing injuries quickly, even if all the pill refiners in the spiritual realm were added together, Yang Chun, who was only a grade 6 junior, would still be able to rank in the top 5. This was something that he had learned after treating countless experts and countless people's injuries. At first, Yang Chen only intended to take advantage of the situation, but when he thought of the profound Heaven Sect's Great Elder and the others who had fought hard not long ago, almost all of them were seriously injured. Looking at the good cooperation along the way, and in order to further give a good impression to the profound Heaven Sect's higher-ups, Yang Chun naturally rushed out to save them. Fortunately, at the very beginning, when the big sect was trying to hide their strength and lure out the Zhao family, the Great Elder and the others' bitter battle was seen by many people. Therefore, even though they were ambushed by countless experts from the inside and were seriously injured, they were still rescued by the nearby cultivators who were on the same front line. Due to some unspeakable reason, the Great Elder and the others had the sixth revolution virtue, Ganoderma Jade pill refined by Yang Chun. No matter how serious their injuries were, they were stabilized in time and none of them died. In this situation, the cultivators who were fighting could only temporarily send them to a safe place. As for treatment, that would have to wait until the battle was over. After the sect masters dealt with the Holocaust sect master and the Thousand Demon sect master, the first thing Yang Chun thought of was to treat the Heaven Dipper realm experts. Before, they had indeed paid a huge price. After taking 2,000-year pills, some of them had been seriously injured twice in a short period of time. Even if their injuries were temporarily stabilized, it was still not optimistic. Of course, as long as they were next to Yang Chun, everyone could confidently say that their lives were saved and their injuries would not be a problem. Yang Chun had this confidence, and it just so happened that everyone else believed this. The Great Elder and the others were naturally very willing to let Yang Chun treat them. The 2,000-year pills had not been completely refined, and their injuries needed to be completely healed. The 1,000-year pills were originally provided by Yang Chun, so whoever started the trouble had to solve it. There was probably no one better than Yang Chun at treating the problems caused by the 1,000-year pills. Yang Chun took the responsibility and began to treat the Great Elder and the others. If 1/6 revolution merit Ganoderma Jade Dew pill was not enough, he could add another one. The after effects of the 1,000-year pill weren't too great. It was just that he had taken two in such a short period of time and was heavily injured in between, so he suffered some spiritual energy backlash. With the addition of a marrow accumulation pill, he would be fine. As for the lack of mental cultivation caused by the sudden advancement of spiritual power cultivation, a questioning inner heart pill could also solve a little bit, and the rest needed time to slowly make up. In short, it was a completely different way of using medicinal pills in a different environment. In order to stay in the spirit realm, the Grand Elder and the others had made ample preparations a long time ago, so they naturally didn't have to face the sudden heavenly tribulation. In short, with Yang Chun around, everything was normal. Sect Masterly saw all this in his eyes, and he was very pleased in his heart, but he said some words like there will be thanks in the future to outsiders. The other sect masters also saw this scene, but they didn't think much about it. Yang Chun was originally a master of healing, so these sect masters naturally asked Yang Chun to treat the injured in their sect. Of course, Yang Chun wouldn't refuse a favor that was sent to him, and he readily agreed. Therefore, a flat ground outside the Dragon Palace became a place for Yang Chun to heal. As for why those injured people were not allowed to enter the Dragon Palace, it was the idea of several sect masters. Since the Dragon Palace had been promised to Yang Chun, he shouldn't let others see the situation inside. Otherwise, there would be other disturbances in the future. If he didn't let them see, they wouldn't have any thoughts that they shouldn't have. In the following time, Yang Chun became a doctor on the battlefield. The various sect masters had already instructed that if they felt that their injuries couldn't recover in a short time, they should come here to look for Master Yang Chun. Master Yang's reputation had attracted many injured people who came because of his reputation. Such a big scene of destruction and annihilation, and all the Xian Immortal level experts were participating. No one wanted to miss it because of their injuries. Many cultivators would rather owe more favors to participate in it. What's more, in this kind of battle scene, of course, the lighter the injuries, the better. It would be best if they could recover. Yang Chun was also very competent as the temporary battlefield doctor. Basically, as long as they came to him, the serious injuries were stabilized and the light injuries were healed. Except for some broken limbs that couldn't be recovered directly, as long as the rest of the body was intact, they could lie down and walk out. Those Xian Immortal injured people weren't stingy. Anyway, they had the advantage on this battlefield, be it beasts or cultivators killed. There were more or less gains. It wasn't known which of the injured people started to leave their spoils of war for Yang Chun. Yang Chun didn't reject it, even if he was firm. Later on, it became a practice. Every injured person left something for Yang Chun. After a few days, Yang Chun had already received hundreds of good quality items. The Zhao clan's cultivators had completely lost the possibility of turning the tables. Blood Holocaust Sect Master was captured. Thousand Demon Sect Master was captured. Three River Alliance Master had escaped. The Zhao clan had lost its backbone. Under the joint attack of various experts, those who died. Those who surrendered. After a few days, there was less than a quarter of their strength that was still resisting stubbornly. Facing the experts from various sects, these stubborn fellows were already destined to be defeated. It was just a matter of time. Some experts who couldn't squeeze in had already started to eliminate the beasts that were running around. These were all Xian Immortal level beasts. There were many benefits. After another 10 days, there were almost no Zhao clan cultivators left on the battlefield. Everyone was completely immersed in the battle of exterminating the beasts. With the suppression of the dragon puppet's aura, those beasts were like headless flies, running around aimlessly. Their combat power was reduced by at least 40%. This completely benefited the experts from all sides. Every one of them happily hunted the beasts. Every cultivator's face was filled with joy. The Battle of Three River Alliance finally came to an end, ending with the complete victory of all the major sects. Not only did this battle eliminate the core strength of Three River Alliance, but it also lured out the hidden Blood Holocaust Sect and Thousand Demon Sect, killing all their experts in one fell swoop. The result was extremely glorious. In addition, this battle also created a few new records. This was the first time a super sect was eliminated in the spiritual realm, and it was 3 sects that were eliminated at once. The number of Xian Immortal cultivators who participated was the most, adding up to a few thousand. If the Xian Immortal beasts were included, the total number would be more than 20,000. The victory of all the major sects also meant a crushing defeat for the Zhao clan. This wasn't the kind of small failure he had suffered in the past. Instead, it had reached the point where his bones and tendons were hurt. No matter how big the Zhao clan was, such a huge loss was enough to make their leaders' heart ache. Chapter 1963. The formation that sealed off the Three River Alliance had been completely released. The one that Holocaust Sect and Thousand Demon Sect had set up was destroyed by sect leader Li's Great Elder and the others. The entire Three River Alliance had now become an empty zone. Since this place was chosen by the Three River Alliance, a super sect, it was definitely a blessed land for cultivation. There were as many as 8 spirit veins of heaven immortal level, all of which were concentrated within a radius of 2,000 miles. In addition, there were hundreds of earth immortal and human immortal spiritual veins, all distributed within a radius of 5 to 6,000 miles. Of course, these were just the spiritual veins. There were thousands of mineral deposits around, which were all essential materials that cultivators urgently needed. As long as the Three River Alliance's foundation was slightly modified, it would become a super hen that laid golden eggs. Such a unique cultivation treasure land was definitely a good place that made people salivate with desire. The Three River Alliance had been destroyed, so this place naturally belonged to the major sect that participated in the battle. As for how to divide it, it would definitely require all parties to fight for it. Now is the time to divide the spoils. If there was only the Three River Alliance's territory, facing more than 20 super sect, it would be an awkward situation where there were too many wolves and not enough meat. Fortunately, the Holocaust sect and the 10,000 Demon sect appeared along the way. These 2 super sects couldn't escape the fate of being annihilated. Therefore, their remaining sects would also be located in a place with good feng shui comparable to the Three River Alliance. In this way, the 3 super sects' territories were barely enough for 20 super sect to divide. Everyone could even choose a place that was suitable for them. If they were willing, they could even exchange some of the scattered subsidiary sects' territories with these spoils of war, hoping to obtain a complete large territory. The sect leaders of the major sect had already sent people to take over the territories of Holocaust sect and Thousand Demon sect. If the remaining disciples of those two sects were smart enough, they would not stay there and wait to be caught. Such a large territory was equivalent to falling into the hands of the major sect. At this point, the division of the spoils was no longer something that Yang Chen could participate in. The various sect leaders had yet to leave and were still gathered together, all for the subsequent division of loot. Since each sect was fighting for its own benefits, it didn't feel good to stay in any sect. After all, whichever sect was the host would have some moral and nominal benefits. They were all smart people who would throw away the benefits that belonged to them for no reason. Therefore, in this situation, it was necessary to find a neutral place that everyone could trust, a place that was big enough, secretive enough, and suitable for everyone to negotiate. The Wood Dragon Palace, which had been temporarily taken over by Yang Chen and would soon be taken over, was obviously a suitable place. Firstly, it was sufficiently safe. Without Yang Chen's permission, only the combined forces of at least 100 Xian Immortal experts could enter. However, all the sect masters were inside. Which faction would dare to barge in so brazenly? In addition, the Murong sisters were controlling the dragon puppets to protect them. Who would dare to casually alarm the sect masters inside? The dragon puppets were protected in the Dragon Palace, but they were restricted by the dragon trapping array, so they would never pose a threat to the sect masters. As a disciple of the Chunyang Palace independent of the major sect, Yang Chen had a good relationship with all the major sect. Previously, Yang Chen's performance in the battle to destroy the Three River Alliance was also amazing. Everyone was willing to believe that Yang Chen would not be biased towards any side. Even if Yang Chen came from the Dao sect, his wives and concubines were all disciples of the Dao sect, so he would instinctively be biased towards the Dao sect. However, everyone also knew that Yang Chen also had an unclear relationship with Lady Fanghua of the Demon sect, which could make Yang Chen slightly impartial. Of course, more importantly, Yang Chen only guaranteed that everyone would not be disturbed when they were negotiating inside. He did not have the qualifications and strength to negotiate at the table. Everyone believed that Yang Chen could do it perfectly, and, at the same time, he would not interfere with everyone's position. It was necessary to be secretive. No one could come in. Only the sect masters of the major sect knew what they were talking about. Wasn't that enough? As for Yang Chen's wives, concubines, disciples, and friends, they naturally did not need to be present during the negotiation. As long as Yang Chen's family served them, other outsiders would all be driven out. Naturally, the Wood Dragon Palace, which Yang Chen had yet to fully obtain, became the place for everyone to divide the spoils. All the irrelevant people, such as Fatty Jing, Ho Yun, and others were driven out. Now that everything was over, there was no threat to their safety. They were directly asked by Yang Chen to take Mu Bo and Yi Yu to a place where they could gain experience. The demonic calamity of the spiritual realm was about to end, so they could not waste any time. The ones responsible for serving tea and serving in the Dragon Palace were Yang Chen's wives and concubines. All of them were female disciples of the Dao sects, which made the people of the demon sect uncomfortable. The sect master of Yin Yang Demon School had already expected this. When the battlefield was almost cleaned up, he called Lady Fanghua in advance. In addition to Yang Chen's wives and concubines, there were also Lady Fanghua from the demon sect and 30 beautiful female disciples. Of course, the demon sect masters were not satisfied, but there were few people in their sect who had a good relationship with Yang Chen. Lan Ying, a beauty from the demon sect, was collectively kept by several demon sect masters. They threw a lot of benefits to her and let her participate in the service team. It was not about the number of people, but the participation of the demon clan. Lan Ying also became the only disciple of the Chunyang Palace who could stay in addition to Yang Chen's family. Only the individual cultivator alliance suffered a loss. Although they were not convinced, the individual cultivator alliance could not come up with a few female disciples who had a close relationship with Yang Chen. They could only grit their teeth and accept this loss. Several alliance masters secretly vowed that after this, they would send a few female disciples to communicate with Yang Chen, so as not to suffer a loss on this occasion. Before the looting started, there was already another dispute. Because of what happened in the past, The Murong sisters had been accepted as pro-disciples by sect Master Chui of the Five Elements sect. Similarly, sect Master Li of Xintian sect also accepted Tao Junqi as a pro-disciple. As for the other women, they still maintained their previous identities and did not change. How could this be? Everyone could see the current role of Yang Chun. Not to mention anything else, just his future achievements in alchemy were worth everyone's hard-earned capital to recruit him. How to recruit others if his wives and concubines were so close to him? Was there still a need to go far? Immediately, Shi Shanshan, Sun Qingxue, and Shi Wushuang were forcibly accepted as pro-disciples by the island master of the Green Jade Immortal Island, the sect master of the Blue Cloud sect, and the sect master of the Qingquan sect. They were all Yang Qin's wives and concubines. They couldn't favor one and discriminate against the other, right? The people of the demon sect were not willing to lag behind. Lady Fanghua was immediately accepted as a pro-disciple by the sect master of the Yin Yang Demon School. She was already an elder of the Yin Yang Demon School, so her status was greatly increased. Chapter 1964. The series of disciples made Yang Qin's family stunned. This was not the end. The Tao sects and demon sects made such a move, and the monster race was no exception. Lan Ying and Yang Chun had a very good relationship. Although they were not close to the point of being a family, they were only a little bit apart. The most important thing was that everyone knew the news from the mortal world. Lan Ying, this little octopus, was the savior of Yang Chun in the mortal world. This alone could make Yang Chun never deviate from Lan Ying. Several monster race sect masters also wanted to pull Lan Ying into their sect. What was the point of giving her a pro-disciple? Unfortunately, Lan Ying was already a person of Chunyang Palace. At this time, if she was asked to betray the sect, it would not be to build a relationship with Yang Chun, but to draw hatred. However, these big shots also had their own ways. Couldn't they let Lan Ying change her sect? Then I can't accept an adopted daughter anymore, can I? Under the incredible eyes of Lan Ying, who couldn't believe it, Lan Ying was accepted as an adopted daughter by several monster race sect masters at the same time. At this time, even if Lan Ying was an unarmed native, it was estimated that few cultivators would dare to move casually. What did it mean to reach the sky in a single bound? It referred to the current situation of Lan Ying. In the end, everyone was indirectly fighting for Yang Chun. On the one hand, Yang Chun was an alchemy master with unlimited achievements in the future. On the other hand, Yang Chun now had the only magic weapon and array that could restrain the dragon puppet. The latter part was the most crucial point. Otherwise, just an alchemist with boundless prospects wouldn't be worth the effort of so many super sect masters. Everyone was well aware of this, but everyone tacitly did not mention it. They just took advantage of the fact that the identity of the people who serve here was almost the same. Yang Chun could only accept this with a wry smile in his heart. He didn't care about the identity of his wives and concubines. They were all a family. There was no need to be so clear. On the other hand, after the initial shock, all of the women couldn't hide their surprise. The other happiest person was sect leader Li of the Black Heaven sect. Who knew Yang Chin's identity better than him? Who would have known that the alchemist that these fellows spared no effort to rope and was actually the junior that they were most proud of? However, there was one thing that Sect Master Li had to consider. He and Yang Chun were separated by seniority. Now, Yang Chun and his concubine Tao Junqi were separated by seniority. Although most cultivators didn't care about this, and it was normal for master and disciple to cultivate together, such as Yang Chun and Gao Yu, it still sounded awkward after all. Should he find a time to accept Yang Chun as a secret personal disciple as well? That way, their relationship would be closer. The main hall of the Dragon Palace was big enough to accommodate 20 sect leaders. All the tables and chairs were available in the Dragon Palace, and they could be used directly. Right in the middle of the spacious and dazzling hall, there was a huge round table. All the sect masters sat around the round table, and there was no need for them to sit at the top or the bottom. This was just right. The women also took out the same attitude as they served Yang Chun to serve these sect masters. Anyway, they were all big figures, and they were all elders in terms of seniority, so there was no such thing as losing face. The palace feast cooked by the women of Yin Yang Demon School and the after-meal snacks, carefully cooked by Gong Sunling, won the unanimous praise of the sect masters. Shi Shanshan's fragrant tea and Sun Qingshue's wine also received unanimous praise. After eating and drinking, the women left the main hall far away, and the sect masters began to formally divide the spoils. Even if it was evenly distributed, the 3 supersect could let the 20 supersect get nearly 1/6 of the territory and resources to expand. No matter which sect master it was, this was a solid merit for the sect to be carried forward, and no one would easily let it go. At first, everyone was still reserved. Those who liked to drink tea sipped tea, and those who liked to drink wine tasted light wine. Listening to the beautiful sound of Zhou Xianying's zither everywhere, the conversation was still peaceful. However, this modest and gentlemanly style didn't last long. It quickly changed. This was a negotiation where everyone fought for their own benefits. Who had ever seen a gentle gentleman or a delicate lady who could bully others win against a hooligan and a scoundrel? They were all big figures who commanded an area, and their words were the law. Before they became big figures, they had already killed countless enemies in the open and in the dark. They were all old fellows who were more treacherous than the most cunning, corrupt officials in the mortal world, who would give up the benefits they were supposed to get just because of a little bit of their image. The person who had been a sect master for the shortest period of time was Black Heaven Sect's sect masterly. Other than sect masterly, who hadn't been in charge of a sect for at least 1 to 2,000 years. They were used to being respected, so how could they tolerate the rude and sarcastic remarks during a fight? Moreover, when everyone was beating up Thousand Demon Sect Master and Holocaust Sect Master, they were at their most embarrassing moments. Who hadn't seen each other before? At this time, how could they still be gentle, polite, and thrifty? All of them rolled up their sleeves, slammed the table, kicked the chair, pointed at the other party, and scolded them. Think about why they aren't affected by your music. Yang Chen seemed to have expected this. He didn't even look at them. He sat beside Zhou Xianying, who was playing the guqin. As he smelled the fragrance on Zhou Xianying's body, he listened to Zhou Xianying's music and reminded her, "If you understand it, your music will be even more powerful in the future." At the beginning of the negotiation, Zhou Xianying played a calming tune. With Zhou Xianying's attainments in sound technique, it should have been easy for her to calm everyone down. However, an accident happened at this time. The sound of the zither was still a calm tune, but which of the sect masters inside were calm and composed? Zhou Xianying's cultivation was similar to those sect masters, but they didn't get rid of the influence of Zhou Xianying's music so easily. Zhou Xianying was naturally puzzled. Could it be that a fight was more important than cultivation? Yang Chun just happened to be there. He could let Zhou Xianying understand more about this and know the real image of the big figures. In the future, when Zhou Xianying ascended to the immortal world, she might be able to accept her father. Zhou Xianying was lost in thought, but her fingers were playing the strings, and the sound of the guqin would ring for a while. Gao Yu, who found something wrong and planned to come and see, waved his hand. Yang Chun quietly left Zhou Xianying and came to the side of the Dragon Tower. Xiao Tian was still working hard to collect the Dragon Palace. Yang Chun did not disturb him. He made a set of tables and chairs next to him. Gong Sunling and Lady Fenghua immediately came over to get some wine and food. They sat here and drank while waiting for the results of the sect master's quarrels. Don't look at them arguing fiercely. No one made a move. Yang Chun was not worried that they would really fight and hurt the harmony. Anyway, it was just an attitude. There would always be disputes and compromises. The world of the big figures was like this. Chapter 1965. The actual territory controlled by the 3 super sect was more than 2 million square kilometers. Such a large territory was basically not something that any single sect could swallow alone. The division of loot lasted for more than 20 days. From the territory to the spirit vein, from the mineral resources to the population, from the affiliated sects to the countries they controlled, everything had to be taken out for a fight. The liveliness was comparable to the busiest market. Zhou Xianying had been observing and thinking. She was wondering why her music couldn't affect these experts with similar cultivation bases. Could it be that when they were faced with benefits, they would forget everything and ignore all external disturbances? These days, Zhou Xianying was confused at first. However, she gradually understood. Why did she have to force others to get used to her music instead of adapting to her opponent's moods? Music cultivators only cultivated for themselves when they cultivated. If they tried to influence or attack others, they had to follow their pace. After figuring this out, Zhou Xianying suddenly changed the style of her music. The general atmosphere was still calming, but the details were adjusted according to the actions and moods of the sect leaders. Sometimes they would even deliberately stimulate it. Every time this happened, the arguments of the sect leaders would become more intense. Zhou Xianying had roamed the spiritual realm alone for many years. Because of her appearance, she had been looked down upon. Sometimes, she would be a little extreme. However, ever since she married Yang Chun, she had never felt this way again. Whether it was her husband or her other sisters, they all gave her enough care and care. Thus, Zhou Xianying's extreme thoughts slowly became normal. This time, she had the opportunity to play for the sect leaders. While she was practicing her music cultivation base, she was also a little mischievous. She used her music to silently influence the emotions of the sect leaders. From time to time, she would trigger a little conflict. Seeing that the sect leaders had unknowingly fallen into her trap, Zhou Xianying was very happy. After you get used to their moods, you can try to make some small adjustments without affecting the overall atmosphere. You can guide the changes in their moods. Yang Chen also happily discovered Zhou Xianying's change. At the same time, he was very happy with Zhou Xianying's sudden naughtiness, so he didn't miss the opportunity to give advice. Although Zhou Xianying said that she could use the music to stir up the emotions of the sect masters and make them fight more intensely, that was their original state. Zhou Xianying just went with the flow and magnified it a little. What Yang Chun was teaching now was on another level. Don't think about changing anything the moment you come up. As long as you can add a small branch in their subconscious, they will naturally take the initiative to enlarge this branch and enter another emotion. Since he was going to give pointers, Yang Chun decided to give her pointers once. Zhou Xianying was his wife, and there was no such thing as hiding anything. In the past, Zhou Xianying had always played the zither in a bold and unrestrained manner, directly using the most violent way to forcibly release her emotions. He was naturally invincible against those whose cultivation was lower than his, especially in terms of spiritual sense and mental state. However, once he encountered someone with a similar realm, or a cunning giant like the sect masters, he would immediately become useless, just like not long ago. Listening to her husband's guidance, Zhou Xianying suddenly felt enlightened. A door that had been puzzled for a long time suddenly opened, and she immediately understood a lot of things. Before she could say anything more, her husband had already stuffed a pill into her mouth, and her husband's voice sounded in her ears, questioning in her heart pill, play the zither slowly and comprehend slowly. Her heart was wrapped in a great happiness. Zhou Xianying's intuition made her whole body unspeakably relaxed. The grievances she had suffered in the spiritual world in the past no longer existed at this moment. Her heart was full of tranquility and peace. Whether it was the supercilious eyes, discrimination, grievances, and so on in the past, they were all necessary hardships for her to meet her husband. Everything was just to be with her husband in this life. Everything was worth it. The ugly shell was a form of protection that her father had given her. It was also a barrier that she had set up so that she could wait for her husband to appear. Only someone like her husband would be able to see through her extremely ugly shell and see how beautiful she was. Her complaints about her father also disappeared without a trace in an instant, leaving only peace and serenity. The sound of the zither naturally changed. When the sect masters were at the most intense time, there would always be a sound of the zither that made people feel that sometimes everyone would compromise with each other to solve all the problems, and then everyone would slowly compromise without realizing it. It was easier said than done to affect the emotions of others. This was also why Zhou Xianying realized that the sect masters would not really fight. The reason they quarreled was to fight for the maximum benefits for their own sect. When they were close to the bottom line, they would have a sense of self-restraint. Zhou Xianying just grasped this point. Just one or two zither sounds could make these sect masters make this kind of decision in advance. In the beginning, the success rate was not high, but after a few times, Zhou Xianying seemed to have found the knack of it and gradually became proficient. The time that the sect masters quarreled became shorter and shorter. It was all about the spoils of war, so there was no need for everyone to quarrel so fiercely. After quarreling for a while, it was settled. It was because of Zhou Xianying's actions that the sect masters were able to divide the Three River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and Thousand Goblin sect territories in about 20 days. Otherwise, the time needed would have been doubled or more. When the sect masters quarreled, none of the women dared to interrupt. They only served tea and water at the appropriate time, and each of them had their own positions. Here, everyone served the elders inside, and the rest had nothing to do with them. As the last piece of territory was settled, the banquet for dividing the spoils finally came to an end. Under Yang Chen's command, all kinds of wine and delicacies were placed on the table in the hall. When the dust settled, it was time to celebrate. It had to be said that Yang Chen's command was very insightful. At least, none of the sect masters were dissatisfied with it. Everyone tacitly picked up the wine cup in front of them and drank it all together. Then they laughed loudly. At this point, the battle to annihilate the Three River Alliance had come to an end. The territories of the three sect became the branches of each sect. The Three River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and Thousand Goblin sect no longer existed in the spiritual realm. The battle was a complete victory. In this battle, Sect Master Li of the Black Heaven sect took the greatest credit. His reputation was like the sun in the sky. Chapter 1966. In just a few dozen days, Zhou Xianying's understanding of music had increased to a higher level. After the sect masters left, she immediately went into seclusion alone. She believed that when she came out, her cultivation would have improved again. After Xiao Tian's painstaking sacrificial refinement, the Dragon Palace finally completed the first step. Xiao Tian's spiritual sense was firmly inserted into the Dragon Palace. In short, this Dragon Palace could temporarily accept Xiao Tian's control. However, it was only limited to temporary control. To completely seize it, it would take a longer time of sacrificial refinement to dispel the original owner's spiritual sense. This was under the condition that the original owner of the Dragon Palace would not appear to snatch it. If the other party appeared, it was estimated that even if Xiao Tian had the Dragon Pagoda, he would still be at a disadvantage. There was no other way. Since the owner of the Dragon Palace could arrange the Dragon Trap Array to trap the golden immortal intermediate stage dragon puppet, his cultivation would not be lower than this level. The difference in cultivation between Xiao Tian and the other party was too far. This was a gap that could not be made up in a short time. It was just that Yang Chen was not worried about this problem now. After the sect masters finally finished dividing the loot, Ao Lan and Ao Lai quietly entered the Wood Dragon Palace. The dragon race was good at hiding their tracks. The scene of the Three River Alliance was so big. How could Ao Lan and Ao Lai not find them? After receiving Yang Chen's invitation signal, they hid their figures and quietly approached the Dragon Palace. In fact, when they saw the Wood Dragon Palace from afar, even though Ao Lan and Ao Lai had guessed the reason why Yang Chen invited them to discuss, they did not expect it to be such a situation. A Wood Dragon Palace meant that there was at least a wood attribute dragon behind it. It was estimated that only Ao Lan could come forward to suppress the situation. Ao Lan also did not decline. The two dragon experts quietly sneaked into the Dragon Palace. Except for Yang Chen, no one else felt it. Even Yang Chen, because of Xiao Tian's notice. During this period of time, in order to avoid any misunderstandings, Yang Chen did not release his spiritual senses. At the very most, he only used it within the Dragon Palace. When Ao Lan and Ao Lai came over, Yang Chun only sensed them after they entered the Dragon Palace. With Ao Lan, a dragon race expert with an unknown cultivation. Even if the original owner of the Wood Dragon Palace was here, Xiao Tian, Ao Lan, and Ao Lai would not be able to snatch the Wood Dragon Palace back from Xiao Tian. The sect masters had already left. In the Dragon Palace, apart from Yang Chen's family, the only outsider was Lan Ning. However, this fella could not hold it in any longer. After all the sect masters left, he immediately bade farewell to Yang Chun. She had already made an appointment with Ho Yun and the others to go out and gain experience. This delay lasted for almost a month. Although she had inexplicably become the goddaughter of several monster race sect masters, Lan Ning did not realize the significance of this identity and still had the same personality as before. Lady Fanghua and the 30 beautiful maids had now been subconsciously regarded as Yang Chen's family by the various sect masters. Even if Yang Chen wanted to deny it, he could not to mention that he had no intention to deny it. On the one hand, Lady Fanghua and the maids really regarded themselves as Yang family. Yang Chen could not bear to deny and hurt their hearts. On the other hand, Old Hai followed Lady Fanghua. The signal to outsiders was already clear enough. She was not Yang Chen's woman. How could Yang Chen be willing to send a profound, immortal bodyguard? The appearance of Ao Lan and Ao Lai did not surprise the women. Everyone knew the origin of the dragon race and knew how powerful the dragon race was. Even if they appeared more mysteriously, it would not surprise everyone. After all, they were familiar with each other. There was no need to make a fuss. Ao Lai came to Yang Chen's place like it was his own home. He did not stand on ceremony at all. He took the initiative to ask for food and drinks. Naturally, he was in a mess. What's going on with this divine dragon palace? Tell me. Ao Lai asked before Ao Lan could ask. He did not know much about the spiritual realm to begin with. Now, he was practically thirsty for knowledge. Yang Chun did not answer Ao Lai immediately. Instead, he gestured for the maids to pour wine for Ao Lan and serve her well. Then, he slowly told them about the Three River Alliance's matter. From the kidnapping of Yang Chen's disciple, to the profound Heaven sect taking the lead to eliminate the Three River Alliance, to the Scarlet Blood sect and 10,000 Fiends sect jumping out and nearly making a comeback, Xiao Chun described everything in detail. Of course, the main point was that after the dragon puppet appeared, the Wood Dragon Palace appeared as well. The dragon trapping formation trapped the dragon puppet. Isn't the dragon race very united? Yang Chun asked, feeling confused. In his previous life, he did not have much contact with the dragon race. He did not know the secrets behind this. This time, he could ask more, why does the Zhao clan have dragon race experts helping them? Don't you human cultivators have good and bad cultivators as well? Ao Lan retorted in annoyance. Yang Chen's question sounded like he was complaining. This made her very uncomfortable. The dragon race is not united. Isn't it normal for there to be experts supporting the Zhao clan? The reason why Ao Lan was so upset was mainly because of the dragon trapping formation in the Wood Dragon Palace. Even though Yang Chun had already broken a small crack in the formation, Ao Lan was not far away from the formation. Even at such a close distance, she could feel the restraining effect of the formation on the dragon race. She was not upset because of Yang Chen's attitude. Instead, it was because the dragon race had started to target their own race. Although the dragon trapping formation only trapped the dragon race and did not cause any harm, the fact that there was a dragon trapping formation meant that the expert might have even more powerful means. Using the dragon trapping formation did not mean that the other party was showing mercy to the dragon race. Perhaps he was thinking of taking back the dragon puppet. One had to know that the dragon puppet came from the Zhao clan. Aside from the experts of the dragon race, Ao Lan could not think of any other cultivator in the spiritual realm who could refine a mid-stage golden immortal dragon into a puppet. With that, the problem became problematic. Even now, Ao Lan did not dare to be certain that the golden immortal Zhao family expert he sensed near the core of the training ground back then was this dragon race expert. Back then, she did not sense the aura of the dragon race. If it really was not a dragon race expert, then the Zhao clan might have a trump card of the same level or even stronger than that golden immortal expert. Aolan was very unfamiliar with the remnant aura of the Wood Dragon Palace. Aolai was even more confused. This meant that the master of the Wood Dragon Palace was someone of the same race that Aolan did not recognize. What restrains Earth? Perhaps this unfamiliar dragon race expert was the one who refined the Earth-attributed dragon puppet. You called us over to tell us about this? Aolan carefully digested the current information and asked about Yang Chen's purpose. That is just one of the purposes. Yang Chen did not bother playing games with Aolan. He answered straightforwardly, "My main purpose is to get Senior's help to completely subdue this dragon palace." Chapter 1967. What is the reward? When Aolan spoke to Yang Chen, she was very clear about what she should and should not do. Is it the opportunity to make a move? In the past, Aolan had promised Yang Chen that she would help Yang Chen make a move. Now that there was an opportunity, she wanted to ask. It is not. Yang Chen understood what Aolan was thinking. Always carrying a promise felt like a thorn in his back. It was very uncomfortable. If it were Yang Chen, he would be willing to end this matter immediately. Unfortunately, this was not an opportunity. "I do not have the habit of making a move for no reason," Aolan said indifferently, not feeling surprised. She knew this was the result. Dragon Sealing Formation. Yang Chen directly stated his reward. "Help me refine the Divine Dragon Palace, and I can let you study the Dragon Sealing Formation. If you need it, I can also tell you how to break the Dragon Sealing Formation." The Dragon Sealing Formation was a unique formation for the dragon race. Xiaochen had already used it on the dragon puppets in the battle earlier. He had experience using it in actual combat. Reality proved that it was very effective on the dragon puppets. This meant that it was indeed useful to the dragon race, even to a golden immortal like Aolan. Aolan's gaze shifted to the plaza of the Divine Dragon Palace once more. That dragon sealing formation was very eye-catching, making her hesitate. Aolai also looked over there. In his mind, he wondered how he should deal with such a formation. They just couldn't see anything. Aolai and Yang Chen were not polite. They drilled into the gap that Yang Chen had made and personally experienced the power of the dragon trap formation. This dragon sealing formation lived up to its name. Aolai found it hard to move an inch in the formation. Aside from the small gap that Yang Chen created, no matter what Aolai did, he could not open the formation at all. Even when Aolai used his 2 life flame seeds, he could not do anything to the formation. As Aolai experimented, Aolan kept an eye on him. In the past few days, Aolai had been following Aolan, receiving pointers as he cultivated, benefiting a lot. Because of this, Aolan had a clear understanding of Aolai's cultivation. Seeing Aolai's current situation, she could easily determine the might of the dragon sealing formation from Aolai's reaction. "Deal." Aolan finally nodded, agreeing to this. Yang Chen's face finally revealed a smile. With the help of Aolan and Aolai, this Wood Dragon Palace could almost be said to belong to Yang Chen. Given this, Yang Chen's 5-element Dragon Palace only lacked a metal-attributed Dragon Palace. Right now, even if the true master of the Wood Dragon Palace rushed over, it would be useless. With Aolan and the Murong sisters controlling the dragon puppets, the 2 of them would have an overwhelming advantage. Furthermore, Lin Jingyuan was playing happily in the Lai's Inn. If Dragon Lai was the dragon, the Yang, Chan the Lin Lai with the right the dragon, the Yun the dragon, he would Lin Lai. Yang Chun, think the dragon leave. He Lin the Yang fellow Lin, Lai the Yang the dragon Chun, had the dragon palace. He Chen was not to be. He the Chen's right the Yang Lai. He did not reveal even the slightest aura. Clearly, he was not nearby. If there is a stronger spirit vein, the refinement process will be faster. Since Aolan, this expert, agreed to help refine the Dragon Palace, she was very straightforward and considerate of Yang Chen. Aolan knew that Yang Chen needed to quickly refine the Wood Dragon Palace to prevent any problems. Hence, her suggestion was very pertinent. "Don't worry. We will go to a place with a strong spirit vein immediately. Yang Chen replied quickly, satisfied with Ao Lan's attitude. However, after Ao Lan finished speaking, he felt that something was wrong. He immediately added, "However, after we go there, we need to hide ourselves and not make any noise. Is that all right?" Strange. Ao Lan stared at Yang Chen for a while before muttering to herself. She replied in a bad mood, "Even you can't find it. This is fine, right?" Yang Chen immediately beamed with joy. As long as Ao Lan could do it, it would be of great benefit to him. Otherwise, he could only put this matter aside and return to the hatred-parting sea to refine the Dragon Palace on Long Xian's heavenly immortal grade spirit vein. As a member of the dragon race, Ao Lan's words were not false. However, it was still a little exaggerated. If they wanted to make it impossible for Yang Chen to find them, they would have to be at least 5 kilometers away from Yang Chen. With Yang Chen's current cultivation of the 3 purities art, it would not be easy for the dragon race to hide from his spiritual sense within 5 kilometers. Even if the dragon race's cultivation was much higher than Yang Chen's, reaching the golden immortal realm like Ao Lan, it would not be easy. When the Battle of the 3 River Alliance ended, Yang Chen had the intention to look for the alliance chief of the 3 River Alliance, who had already escaped. Xiao Chun believed that that fellow had most of the 3 River Alliance's wealth on him. What the major sect wanted was the territory of the 3 River Alliance, and those things that could not be moved away. However, Yang Chen had long set his eyes on the alliance chief. In the eyes of the major sect, since the alliance chief of the 3 River Alliance had escaped, he must have taken those junior disciples and their wealth directly to the Zhao family. From their point of view, they would certainly not give up such a large number of disciples. These were the cornerstones of the future. It was almost impossible to chase after the Zhao family at this time. However, Yang Chen did not think so. The Zhao family could maintain such a secret in the spiritual realm because of a large number of Zhao family's core disciples. Although the 3 River Alliance had been controlled by the Zhao family, it did not mean that everyone in the 3 River Alliance would be loyal to the Zhao family. Many people were only forced or unaware. More than 90% of the disciples did not even know the relationship between the 3 River Alliance and the Zhao family, and they never had the idea of being loyal to the Zhao family. How could the Zhao family boldly accept such a group of 3 River Alliance disciples? Moreover, who knew how many of the major sect spies were among them? It was impossible to casually bring them into the real mountain gate of the Zhao family. Therefore, the disciples of the 3 River Alliance could only temporarily stay in a secret cave in the 3 River Alliance and wait for the moment when the Zhao family could settle them down. Obviously, this wait was going to be a long one. If the hundreds of thousands of disciples wanted to be accepted, they either had to be screened one by one or wait for the Zhao family to gain the upper hand and appear in the spiritual realm. No matter which possibility, it could not be done in a short period of time. Moreover, other than the 3 River Alliance, there were also the Holocaust sect and the Thousand Beast sect, which also had hundreds of thousands of disciples. If the Zhao family wanted to completely accept the 3 sects, it would take decades or even centuries. This time difference was Yang Chen's opportunity. Chapter 1968. The major sects might not necessarily not have thought of this point, but they had more considerations. Firstly, the 3 sects' high-level Xian immortal experts had just been annihilated. The remaining disciples would definitely hide their strength and bide their time to avoid being hunted by the major sect. Based on the 3 River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and Thousand Beast sect strength as super sect, they would definitely have more than one place to hide. Not to mention anything else, each of them would definitely have at least one super cave abode as their core sect to settle their disciples. Moreover, the 3 sect had just been in trouble. They would definitely not take the initiative to jump out at this time when the high-level forces were all wiped out. They would definitely hide well, and it would be best if no one could find them. Although the major sect had already sent their disciples to look for them, it was obvious that they would not be able to find them. Of course, there was no lack of major sects that wanted the Zhao clan to have no choice but to settle this group of people and then place their spies in the Zhao clan. In short, no matter what, The major sect would probably not be able to find any important figures in the Three River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and Thousand Beasts sect in a short period of time. Perhaps there would always be some fish that escaped the net that was not in the sect. However, under the wanted list of the major sect in the spiritual realm, those people could only sadly become victims. The disciples of the major sect could not be found, but it did not mean that Yang Chun could not find them. Of course, it was impossible to find them all at once. Yang Chun could only adopt a method of waiting for the hare to come to him. The new mountain gate of a super sect was definitely a huge cave abode. It had all the conditions for cultivation and was enough for many disciples to cultivate in seclusion. However, there was one thing that everyone had to face. No matter how high the cave abode was, even if it had a lot of spiritual veins, it was not easy to provide for hundreds of thousands of disciples to cultivate. The supply could still keep up for a while. However, if this continued, even the strongest spiritual veins would eventually dry up. At the appropriate time, the people of the three sect had to bring the cave abode to a certain spiritual vein in the spiritual realm to replenish the consumption of the cave abode. This was Yang Chen's chance. The spiritual realm was so vast that ordinary cultivators couldn't even imagine it. The number of spirit veins distributed inside was unimaginable to cultivators. The grotto heavens and blessed lands occupied by the major sects were just places where the super spiritual veins were relatively concentrated. There were also a large number of scattered spiritual veins scattered all over the spiritual realm, and the number was uncountable. These were only the spirit veins that had been discovered. Many undiscovered spirit veins were still quietly lying somewhere underground, waiting for people to excavate them. With so many spiritual veins, it was enough for the Three River Alliance, Holocaust sect, and Thousand Beasts sect to replenish their spiritual energy. Now that the three sect masters had become the target of scorn, it was unrealistic to wantonly replenish their spiritual power at the spirit vein that they had discovered. Not to mention that there were countless people who wanted to use the disciples of the three sect to obtain the bounty offered by the major sects. Once they were exposed, the entire abode would be destroyed. It was believed that the new sect masters of the three sects would not take such a risk. Therefore, only the spirit veins that the three sect had discovered but had yet to be announced to the public were ideal places to replenish spiritual energy. If the opportunity was right, they should also try to collect as many of those spirit veins as possible into the abode. Unfortunately, collecting the spirit veins would cause too much of commotion, and it would take too much time. It probably wouldn't be worth it. The opportunity that Yang Chun seized was the opportunity for the members of the three sect masters to replenish their spiritual energy at the super spiritual veins. Others didn't know which spirit veins the three sect masters had discovered and where they would replenish their spiritual energy, so they had no way of finding them. However, Yang Chun had more memories from his previous life than others, which gave him many possibilities that others didn't have. In his previous life, after the demonic calamity in the spiritual realm ended, all the sect masters expanded and occupied some new territories. Among them, the Tri-River Alliance opened branches in 2 places, and the Holocaust sect gained 3 subsidiary sect masters. The Myriad Demon sect was even stronger, gaining 3 branches and 2 subsidiary sect masters controlled by their core disciples. These places all had heaven immortal grade spirit veins that had never been discovered before. Now, no one knew about these spirit veins. At the very least, there were no rumors about them. As long as Yang Chun waited at any place, he would have a chance of meeting one of the 3 sect masters. After rushing to the first place, Yang Chun only needed to go underground to check it out. Then, he knew that he had found the right place. There was indeed a heaven immortal grade spirit vein below. However, someone had used an array to conceal the spirit vein. If one didn't go several kilometers underground and directly come into contact with the array, it would be impossible to discover it from above. The array was very ingenious. Not a single trace of spiritual energy leaked out. With Aolan around, Yang Chun didn't even need to show off his attainments in array formations. He just let Aolon bring everyone into the spirit vein without damaging the array at all. The spirit vein was very strong. Even a golden immortal gray dragon race expert, like Aolon, felt very comfortable. It was called a heaven immortal grade spirit vein because this was the highest grade of spirit vein in the spiritual realm. Aolon could not finish absorbing it. Based on the previous standards, this spirit vein was at least a golden immortal grade spirit vein. After absorbing it unscrupulously, Aolon followed their previous agreement and started to help Shao Tian refine the Wood Dragon Palace. With the help of this golden immortal grade expert, an expert from the dragon race, and an endless supply of spiritual energy, Shao Tian even placed the Dragon Pagoda at the control hub. The Wood Dragon Palace's collection went very smoothly. Perhaps the opponent dragon race expert had already given up on this dragon palace. In any case, during the refining process, neither Shao Tian nor Aolon felt any resistance. Later on, when Aolai got tired of cultivating, he couldn't help but join in the refining process. The refining speed increased. In just half a year, the aura left behind by the original owner was completely eliminated. Shao Tian had complete control over the Wood Dragon Palace. This was just the beginning. Next, Shao Tian wanted to merge this Wood Dragon Palace with the mysterious Heaven Nethersea Shuttle and the other 3 dragon palaces. In Shao Tian's previous life, this spirit vein was the territory of the 3 River Alliance. Aolon seemed to enjoy this spirit vein. She wanted to see if she could get any information about the Wood Dragon Palace's owner from the upper echelons of the 3 River Alliance. She did not leave and just helped Shao Tian merge the Dragon Palace. To her, she had nothing to do. Her cultivation was already at the intermediate golden immortal grade or even higher. If she wanted to improve in the spiritual realm, it would be too difficult. Cultivation was no longer her main goal. Senior, if I fight with this dragon race expert in the future and accidentally kill him, will there be any trouble? Yangchen knew what Aolon was thinking and did not rush her. He just found an appropriate time to ask, if you kill a dragon race expert, will you be chased by the entire dragon race? Chapter 1969. You want to slay a dragon? Aolon glared at Yangchen with her big eyes. There seemed to be a murderous intent in her eyes. She looked at Yangchen very unkindly. Even though she was still in her dragon form, Yangchen could see the impoliteness in her eyes. I'm just saying. However, Yangchen did not seem to notice that Aolon was already showing signs of anger. He said calmly, "It can't be that when the fire dragon spirit dissipates, my alchemy furnace will not have an item spirit, right?" Aolon and Aolai knew that the item spirit of the profound spirit furnace was the fire dragon spirit that had lost its consciousness. Aolon and Aolai knew that Yangchen said this to prepare for a rainy day and a plan for the next suitable item spirit. However, to Aolon, the fire dragon was her spiritual sustenance. Now that she knew that the fire dragon spirit was Yangchen's alchemy furnace, the item spirit still protected it in every possible way. It was because she knew a way to revive the fire dragon and make it stronger. Now that Yangchen mentioned replacing the fire dragon spirit, she had no reason to flare up. The dragon race was proud of humans and other fiend cultivators. Even if they were enemies, they could not tolerate the pride of these insignificant ants. That was why Yangchen asked this. If it was someone else, it would not be a fantasy to be killed in an instant. Wait until you have that ability. Aolon replied, non-committally. However, she had already started to weigh whether she should satisfy Yangchen's request or not. Aolai had already come out of the dragon trapping formation. When he heard Aolan's words, he could not help but roll his eyes. Others might not know if Yangchen had the ability to slay a dragon, but how could he not know? He was a peak heaven immortal, but he was played by Yangchen like an earthworm. Who could he find a reason with? However, Aolai would not talk about this embarrassing matter in front of Aolon. This was not just a humiliation for Aolai. It was enough for Aolon to treat it as a humiliation for the dragon race. If there was some trouble because of this, such as thinking that he had insulted this body and wanted to take it back, it would not be worth it. Senior, you should have seen the people around this junior. When Yang Chan saw that Ao Lan did not want to talk about this issue, he did not force her. Instead, he changed the topic. In addition to Yang Chen's wives and concubines, there were also Ho Yun, the old tree demon, Mu Bai, and Yi Yu. Not long ago, when Ao Lan rushed to the Wood Dragon Palace, these people had not left. Naturally, he had seen them. Ao Lan did not know what Yang Chen meant by this. However, she did not deny it. She silently nodded her head and did not say anything. I don't know if Senior has noticed it, but they are all innately or acquired full values of the 5 elements, Yang Chen asked with a smile. Then, he poured another cup of wine for Ao Lan. As for Ao Lai, he directly threw him a wine jar. Giving him a wine cup was simply a waste. So what? Ao Lan did not feel that this was incredible. The dragon race had such confidence. Regardless of which elemental attribute the dragon race was, they were innately full of potential from birth. They were absolute cultivation geniuses. Ao Lan did not care about the little geniuses of the human and fiend cultivators at all. Let's not talk about the innate ones. Yang Chun said unhurriedly. He accompanied Ao Lan for a drink before continuing. As for those acquired, this junior can tell Senior very clearly that they only reach consummation after consuming the medicinal pills this junior refined, including my wife, Gao Yu. Her fire and water attributes are all the same. I already know that you are very good at alchemy. Clearly, Ao Lan had not completely understood the purpose of Yang Chen's words. Hence, she replied perfunctorily while making guesses in her heart. That is to say, this junior has the ability to make cultivators with multiple attributes of the 5 elements reach consummation after birth. Yang Chen finally said what he wanted to say. Seeing that Ao Lan still did not completely understand, he added, that includes the dragon race. Right, that includes the dragon race that used the body-merging pill to gain multiple attributes of the 5 elements. Right now, the fire dragon rebirth was Ao Lan's heart demon. As long as Yang Chen brought up this topic, it would definitely work. Indeed, after hearing what Yang Chen said, even Ao Lan could no longer maintain her calm. Her figure expanded, surpassing 300 meters before she came to her senses. She quickly shrank to about 3 meters and stared into Yang Chen's eyes as she asked, "Is it really possible? So many people have already consumed this junior's medicinal pills." Right now, Yang Chen was very relaxed. He did not even need to express his stance verbally, only using facts to speak. Ao Lan thought back to the human and fiend cultivators she saw. Indeed, they were all little demonic geniuses. Furthermore, her impression of Yang Chen had never been one to lie. Furthermore, there was a ready-made case before her. It was hard not to believe it. If it were someone else, they might hesitate. There was a huge difference between the cultivators of the mortal world and the cultivators of the immortal world. Those who could raise the attributes of the 5 elements to the maximum in the mortal world might not be able to do the same in the immortal world. However, who was Yang Chen? Ao Lan had personally seen Yang Chen refine a rank 8 medicinal pill without touching the alchemy cauldron. The so-called strongest alchemists of the spirit realm were not even worth mentioning before Yang Chen. Ao Lan had already reserved the body of the dragon puppet. Now, with the Murong sister's nourishment, she could produce the other attributes of the 5 elements. Together with the body-merging pill, the revived fire dragon would be able to display the strength of multiple attributes. However, the 5 elemental attributes that were produced were not at the maximum. There would always be strong and weak attributes. If the fire dragon could consume the medicinal pills that Yang Chen refined to raise its attributes, it could be said to have a perfect revival. It would be several times better than what Ao Lan was hoping for. Ao Lan clearly knew that Yang Chen said this on purpose so that she would be tempted. However, she could not stop herself from being tempted. Even though Ao Lan knew that Yang Chen had dug a huge pit for her, she still could not help wanting to jump into it. Be it humans or the dragon race, this was how they thought. Of course, Yang Chen had thought of this long ago. Humans were divided into allies and enemies. Similarly, dragons were divided into allies and enemies. This was not limited to humans. Sometimes, when Ao Lan saw Yang Chen's calm face, which seemed to show that victory was within his grasp, she really wanted to slap Yang Chen and send him flying. She would no longer have to look at this face. However, she could only think about it. For the sake of the fire dragon, she had to allow Yang Chen to use this against her again and again. She had no choice but to lower her head. However, going along with Yang Chen's intentions was not in line with Ao Lan's character. She had to retaliate when there was an opportunity. Otherwise, if Yang Chen used this against her again and again in the future, it would not be a good thing. No matter what, she had to give Yang Chen a different choice. I'll give you two choices, a new dragon race item spirit or a metal-attributed dragon palace. You can only choose one. Ao Lan knew that this was just a form of consolation. However, she still said this, giving Yang Chen the right to choose. Chapter 1970. The Divine Dragon Palace. Yang Chen did not hesitate to choose the latter, not even wasting any time to think. Why? Although Ao Lan was the one who made the choice, she did not want to follow Yang Chen's intentions. Right now, Yang Chen's choice of the Divine Dragon Palace was clearly in line with her intentions. However, she started to feel strange about Yang Chen's choice. Could it be that he was joking when he asked about slaying the dragon at the start? Or did he already guess my reaction, so he's playing hard to get? There is no reason. Yang Chen smiled and explained. How hard is a metal-attributed Divine Dragon Palace? If it is an item spirit, it would be good to have a dragon spirit. However, I was just saying, there's no need to insist on a dragon spirit. It is not worth it to offend a dragon race expert for this. I still have to thank Senior for helping me gather the Golden Dragon Palace. Ao Lan nearly vomited blood. What do you mean by there's no need to insist on a dragon spirit? Why did you not say this earlier? Why did you have to wait until I made two choices? Isn't this cheating the dragon? However, Ao Lan also understood that she had been too clever for her own good. She had thought herself clever and raised another condition, even giving Yang Chen a choice. This was her greatest mistake. If she had known earlier, she would have just emphasized to Yang Chen that the dragon race's pride could not be offended. Perhaps Yang Chen would have backed off and not used a dragon spirit as an item spirit. Now, she even had to help Yang Chen find a metal-attributed Divine Dragon Palace to complete the 5-element Dragon Palace. Senior is also preparing for a rainy day. Yang Chen's evil plan succeeded. Instead, he put in a good word for Ao Lan. I know that after Senior Fire Dragon's resurrection, the 5 elements will be filled and you will need a 5-element Dragon Palace. So, you help this junior gather one in advance to see the effect. Senior is indeed very thorough. I believe that Senior Fire Dragon will be very grateful to Senior for showing such concern for me. Xiao Chun obtained great benefits from gathering a 5-element Dragon Palace for himself. However, he made Ao Lan's mistake sound like it was a big deal. Only Yang Chen could do such a thing. At the very least, Ao Lai at the side could not do so. At this moment, he wanted to laugh but did not dare to. He looked like he was trying hard to hold back his laughter, looking comical. However, Yang Chen's words gave Ao Lan a good way out. She was also a smart person. She immediately understood what was going on. She snorted and said, "It's good that you know." This barely resolved the awkwardness and calming the atmosphere for Yang Chen. It was as Yang Chen said, since the dragon could complete the 5 elements in the future. Then, Yang Chen's 5 dragon might be a rehearsal. It was a good time to see what the pros and cons of the 5 elements Dragon Palace were. When a fire dragon was resurrected and the Dragon Palace was re-refined, there would also be a specific reference. It would be more perfect than Yang Chen's Dragon Palace. After Yang Chen to Xiao to find a metal-attributed dragon, not to Chen to Hunat. It was normal for such a strong person like Ao Lan to know 1 or 2 metal-attributed dragon race companions. Yang Chen only needed to wait for the results. He did not need to worry about what happened in the process. Although Yang Chen's family served Ao Lan and Ao Lai very diligently, Ao Lan still felt cheated by Yang Chen. However, she could not get angry at Yang Chen. She could only vent her anger on the Dragon Palace. Ao Lan used the spiritual energy in the spirit vein to refine the Dragon Palace. She even took over the task of merging the other 3 dragon palaces. Aolan's cultivation was much higher than Xiao Tian's. When she attacked in anger, her speed was much faster. Right now, Xiao Tian only needed to use the Dragon Pagoda to control the overall progress. He did not need to do anything at all. Based on this situation, the 4 dragon palaces would merge in no time. Aolai was still as carefree as ever at Yangchen's place. She would eat and drink. When she wanted to help, she would help. When she did not, she would find a room in the Fire Dragon Palace. Otherwise, she would lie down on the large map of the plaza and enjoy the spiritual energy surging over from all directions. Aolan was very dissatisfied with Aolai's behavior. However, she would not say anything in front of Yangchen's family. Other than venting her anger by refining the Dragon Palace, she would wait for the people that Yangchen was waiting for to come. It was said that they were all enemies. When Yangchen discovered this spirit vein, there was a concealment formation above it. It was also because of the existence of this formation that Yangchen was able to conclude that this place had already been discovered by the Tri-River Alliance. Waiting here was not a waste of time. At the very least, there was hope. The people from the Tri-River Alliance did not let Yangchen and Aolan wait for too long. They only stayed in the spirit vein for slightly more than a year before they sensed cultivators activating the formation above the spirit vein. The people from the Tri-River Alliance are here. After Yangchen noticed the movement, his face also showed a smile, and he happily smiled at his wives and concubines who had been accompanying him. "Hubby, how do you know that it is them and not the people who discovered the spirit vein by chance?" Sun Qingxue was too lazy to use her brain sometimes and asked Yangchen directly, because they got close to the spirit vein without destroying the formation. Shi Wushuang explained with a smile. During these days, Sun Qingxue, Shi Wushuang, and Murong Nen were the happiest. This was because their hubby had helped them obtain a wood dragon palace. It was completely compatible with their 5 elements. The reason was simple. Although the formation was only a concealment formation, it was not something an ordinary cultivator could break. It was possible to break it with brute force. However, to enter without destroying the formation, other than experts like Aolan, there were only people who understood formations. It was obvious that the person who set up the formation was someone who understood formations. There was only one cultivator who appeared, a Xian Immortal. Although the Tri-River Alliance's high-end combat power was almost completely wiped out in the previous battle, there was still a group of Xian Immortal experts that remained. It was impossible for the Tri-River Alliance to send all their forces. It was necessary to leave a group of experts behind. The person who appeared now was obviously the expert who had stayed behind. With Aolan's methods, the Xian Immortal expert outside did not notice anything strange about the spirit vein. After cautiously checking the surroundings with his spiritual sense, he entered the spirit vein. He placed a translucent ball inside the spirit vein and stood guard by the side. Everything was in line with Yangchen's guess to replenish the spiritual power of the Immortal's cave. The translucent ball was obviously the new mountain gate of the 3 River Alliance. Not every cultivator had the methods of the dragon race to record all the spirit veins in the world on a huge map and extract the spirit vein at any time. Naturally, the people from the Tri-River Alliance could not do that. They did not want to cause a huge commotion by directly collecting the spirit vein. Thus, they could only use this method of replenishing the spirit vein at any time. The Xian Immortal expert who was calmly absorbing the spirit vein would never imagine that someone was targeting him in the cave he was guarding below the spirit vein. Yangchen looked at the cave and was already drooling. Chapter 1971. Yangchen's target was very clear. It was the core cave mansion that contained most of the 3 River Alliance disciples. This kind of grotto heaven level magic treasure, because it belonged to the sect, under normal circumstances, it would not be refined by anyone. At most, it would be imprinted with a spiritual sense imprint to make it easier to control. Once the sect's elder in charge of the cave mansion took over, as long as the original controller took back his spiritual sense imprint, then the new controller would imprint his own spiritual sense imprint. The process was very simple. It was also because of this simple control that Yang Chun had the opportunity to take advantage of. As long as the item was in Yang Chen's hands, it would not be easy for the controller to take it back. The so-called spiritual sense imprint, other than the dragon clans. What else could escape Xiao Tian's big mouth? Ao Lan had been suppressing her anger for a long time. Seeing this Xian immortal expert who came knocking on her door, she was even more furious. She could not vent on Yang Chen's family. Ao Lai, that heartless fellow, was still in the body of the fire dragon, so it was not good for her to vent. She could only vent on this unlucky fellow. Of course, an expert was an expert. Even when she was venting her anger, she did not forget to keep a clear mind. Ao Lan was very clear about what Yang Chen wanted. She would not ruin Yang Chen's plans. One must know that this fellow still held the hope of the fire dragon's rebirth. If she did not want Yang Chen to fall out with her, it was best not to anger Yang Chen. A golden immortal level, furious spiritual sense suddenly shrouded the Xian immortal expert body. In an instant, that expert felt a chill all over his body. Before he could react, the cave abode ball not far from his hand disappeared without a trace in an instant. This time, how could the Xian immortal expert not know what the other party's goal was? However, in the instant before and after he thought about it, he suddenly lost his sense of the cave mansion that was still in his control. The spiritual sense imprint that he planted on the cave mansion was suddenly blocked and then disappeared. He did not know where it went. Now that the spiritual sense imprint had disappeared, wanting to control the cave mansion was already a dream. Not to mention controlling it, even sensing the location of the cave mansion was a big problem. This time, the Xian immortal expert was scared out of his wits, and he lost 2 of his 3 souls. That cave abode was the last hope of the Three River Alliance, the core of the sect. Now, there were hundreds of thousands of disciples of all levels in the cave abode alone, not to mention the various resources that the sect had plundered in the spiritual realm for hundreds of thousands of years. Once it was lost, it meant that the Three River Alliance would never be able to rise again. However, the Xian immortal expert had no time to care about anything else. That mysterious expert's spiritual sense had already firmly locked onto him. In the next second, it was no longer a divine sense that had locked onto him, but a huge 5-clawed dragon claw was grabbing at his head. Ao Lan, who had completely let go of his rage, intended to intimidate Yang Chun. He attacked with the force of a thunderbolt, not giving that Xian immortal expert any chance. At this moment, the Xian immortal expert couldn't even break the formation at the entrance, let alone find the cave abode of the sect. Locked by the unbelievably powerful divine sense, he could only watch helplessly as the dragon claw broke his natal flying sword and then tore apart his protective magic treasure like it was a thin piece of paper. Finally, it grabbed his body and forcefully pulled it back. The last thing that the Xian immortal expert in charge of the cave abode of the Three River Alliance heard was a familiar voice. Don't destroy the corpse. It is the corpse of a Xian immortal expert. In that short moment, he couldn't remember which familiar person's voice belonged to. Then he lost consciousness. You won't even let go of a corpse. Ao Lan's irritated voice was like that of an exasperated shrew. There was no helping it. His anger had not been completely vented, and he had to forcefully suppress it. This was the kind of emotion that anyone would feel. A mere Xian immortal expert was not enough to effectively vent Ao Lan's anger. I need it for a Ling's Mountain River geographical map. Yang Chun was not afraid of Ao Lan flipping out. He said boldly and confidently, "That is your dragon race's magic treasure. You did not tell us how to refine it, so we can only experiment. The world in the Mountain River geographical map will be more stable after merging with the Xian immortal expert's corpse. Don't tell me you don't know." Before Ao Lan could flare up, Yang Chun immediately continued to provoke him. "If Senior is not happy, why don't you go to the core of the trial grounds and start a massacre? There are many Xian immortal demonic beasts there. It is definitely enough for Senior to go on a killing spree." Of course, at the end of his words, Yang Chun did not forget to remind Ao Lan. "However, Senior must remember to bring back the corpses after you kill them. The more the better." Ao Lan already did not know how to express his current emotions. If he was angry, on the one hand, Yang Qin's family was on his side. On the other hand, Aolan was worried about the resurrection of the fire dragon. It was not appropriate for him to express his anger at Yang Qin. However, if he was not angry, Yang Qin's attitude was infuriating. All in all, Aolan looked sullen, like he wanted to be angry, but did not dare to be angry. Seeing Aolan suffer a setback, Aolai's face tensed up, not daring to show any expression. However, he was already laughing so hard his heart that he could not catch his breath. Aolan had always been very strict with Xiao Chun. From his cultivation to his behavior, Aolan could not allow him to make any mistakes. Aolai did not know what relationship the fire dragon had with Aolan, but Aolan could not tolerate Aolai doing something that tarnished the dignity of the dragon race with the fire dragon's physical body. These days, Aolai had been living a life worse than death. It was like he had returned to the dark days of the Languel. Even the strong Aolan was so angry today. The joy in Aolai's heart was like eating an iced watermelon during the hottest days of summer. He felt refreshed from head to toe. However, Aolai did not dare to show it at all. He could only pretend that he did not see it. Otherwise, Aolan would not flare up at Yang Qin and would definitely vent his anger on Aolai. Not hitting the diligent or lazy, but hitting the blind. This was the time when Aolan needed to be perceptive. Although Aolan was angry, Yang Qin's words about the mountain and river geographical map allowed Aolan to calm down and ponder over it carefully. The dragon race had their own refining methods. Aolan definitely could not tell Yang Qin. Even if he told Yang Qin would not be able to do it. However, Aolan had not expected Yang Qin to find such a method. He was somewhat surprised. Aolan quickly controlled his emotions and asked Yang Qin, "How did you discover this method?" "It was Senior who reminded me." Yang Qin did not forget to mention Aolan's contributions. He smiled and replied, "Senior said that the mountain and river geographical map is meant to refine a new world surpassing a cave. Since it is a world, naturally, the more stable it is, the better. As long as we work hard in this direction, it should not be wrong." Chapter 1972. It had to be said that Yang Qin's method of not asking about the process and only pursuing the final result could be considered a solution. Since everyone was a cultivator, the Great Tao had 3,000 paths, and they all led to the same destination. Even the Taoist, demonic, and fiend cultivators could achieve their own Great Tao. In that case, it did not matter whether one used the dragon race's method or the human race's method when refining a new world. It was fine as long as it worked. That makes sense. In a rare moment, Aolan actually nodded in agreement. Then, she said some words of self-reflection. "I was too rigid." After saying that, Aolan closed her eyes and started to think quietly. Yang Qin gestured for everyone to remain quiet. Then, he silently handed several 6-revolution virtuous heart questioning pills to Aolan. Aolan had been in the spiritual realm for many years. The moment the questioning heart pill was before her, she could smell it. She opened her eyes wide and nodded at Yang Qin. Then, she did not stand on ceremony and swallowed all the pills in one gulp. The questioning heart pill was not a rare pill in the spiritual realm. Aolan herself had a rank 7 questioning heart pill as well. However, she did not care about it all. Instead, she swallowed the 6-revolution questioning heart pill that Yang Qin gave her. It could only be said that Yang Qin's empty-handed refining left a deep impression on Aolan. Aolan already had a stubborn faith in Yang Qin's alchemy skills. Indeed, this was the case. The moment the questioning heart pill entered her stomach, the medicinal effects took effect. Aolan immediately noticed the difference. Not to mention a rank 7 revolution questioning heart pill. Even higher ranked pills would not have such an effect. At this moment, these questioning heart pills were like charcoal in snowy weather to Aolan. She could not avoid owing Yang Qin another favor. Aolan also entered closed-door cultivation. Yang Qin carefully settled her down and let Aolai take care of her. Then, He went to another room with the girls. Xiao Tian, give the cave abode to a Ling. Yang Chun instructed, and Xiao Tian immediately spat out the spherical cave abode from its stomach. Gong Sunling had already prepared a geographical map. The moment the cave abode came out, it was immediately wrapped up and disappeared. Ling, leave a divine sense imprint on it, then slowly refine it. Yang Chun pointed out to Gong Sunling and carefully left his spiritual sense imprint on the core mountain gate of the Three River Alliance. If such a super immortal cave could be refined and fused with a mountain river geographical map, then the mountain river geographical map would definitely be able to improve to a higher level. Aside from stability, a world also needed a large space, a massive amount of resources, and enough living beings and cultivators. This cave abode of the Tri-River Alliance just happened to meet these requirements. What if some experts find something wrong and come out of the cave? Gong Sunling carefully followed her husband's instructions and didn't forget to ask her own questions. Don't be afraid. No matter how many experts come out, immediately send them to a place with no one around. Do not let them gather together. Yang Chun answered patiently. They just came out of the cave abode, so I believe they won't realize that they're no longer in the spiritual realm, but in another world. As long as they don't immediately attack the empty ground or sky, there's nothing to worry about. As long as it's a cultivator, cultivating in the mountain river geographical map is equivalent to helping you refine the mountain river geographical map. Yang Chan said with a smile, the more expert cultivators come out, the faster you can refine the corpses of those Xian immortal demonic beasts, and the more stable the mountain river geographical map will be. By the time these cultivators find out that something is wrong, they would no longer have the ability to leave the mountain river geographical map. What Yang Chun said was the biggest feature of the mountain river geographical map. The Dragon Clan's magical weapon was powerful here. It always had some incredible super functions. As the owner of the mountain river geographical map, Gong Sunling understood it better than Yang Chun. Her husband had already explained it so clearly. How could Gong Sunling not understand? She nodded again and again, with a smile on her face. However, there is still a fatal flaw in the mountain river geographical map. After Gong Sunling finished being happy, Yang Chun began to pour cold water on Gong Sunling. The fatal flaw made Gong Sunling suddenly nervous. She anxiously pulled her husband and asked, like the cave mansion of the Three River Alliance, spiritual power can't be replenished at any time and place. We can only find spiritual veins to absorb spiritual power. Yang Chan said with a smile, and at the same time explained, the mountain river geographical map originally only accommodated some experts of the mortal world, and the spiritual world has taken in billions of spiritual world natives. The strongest of these people are only at the Mahayana stage. Even if they have the strength of human immortal, they haven't gone through the heavenly tribulation, so the mountain river geographical map was enough to provide them with spiritual power for cultivation. But it's different after taking the cave mansion of the Three River Alliance. There are hundreds of thousands of human immortal, earth immortal, and heaven immortal disciples. The spiritual power consumed will be thousands of times, and the mountain river geographical map is not enough. Yang Chun said this fatal flaw, but there was no panic on his face. He just looked at Gong Sunling and said, but you don't have to worry for the time being. You have my husband in the Dragon Palace. You don't have to worry about this. Gong Sunling immediately understood. It was indeed troublesome. The mountain river geographical map couldn't provide spiritual power. It could only absorb spiritual power for the cultivators inside to cultivate. But since they were in the Dragon Palace, they didn't have to worry about this at all. The big map on the square showed all the spiritual veins in the spiritual world. They could absorb spiritual power from all kinds of spiritual veins at any time and place. There was no need to worry about spiritual power exhaustion. The more corpses of Xian immortal demon beasts are integrated, the more stable the world is, the more cultivators there are. I believe the more spiritual power it can contain. Yang Chun continued, take it slowly. First refine the cave mansion of the Three River Alliance. Then we will find the cave mansion of the Holocaust sect and the Thousand Demon sect. If we don't accept the benefits that are sent to us, we will be struck by lightning. His words were said casually, Gong Sunling and the girls were all smiles. It was just that the disciples of the Three River Alliance didn't expect that they were no longer the poor wanderers. They had become the vassals of Gong Sunling in the Mountain River geographical map. The disciples of the Holocaust sect and the Thousand Demon sect, who were on the run, didn't know that they in the cave mansion they were in had been targeted by Yang Chun and his family. As instructed by Yang Chun, during the process of Gong Sunling slowly refining the cave mansion, there were still disciples of the Three River Alliance who noticed something was wrong. Dozens of Xian Immortal experts immediately came out of the cave mansion to check. Gong Sunling has always kept in mind Yang Chen's words. As soon as these people came out, they were immediately transferred to a sparsely populated place. Those people did not know where they were. At most, they were alert and carefully explored the surroundings. No one thought that they were still on the other side of the world, and no one directly attacked. As a result, these poor masters became Gong Sunling's helpers. The world of the Mountain River geographical map was big enough. As more and more experts came out of the cave mansion to check, the refining speed became faster and faster.